Kicking off your Thursday morning on a gloomy middle of the week in Music City. Welcome to Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com on June the 22nd, where Coach Dave McGinnis stops by to talk ball with us at 7:20. We dive into the NBA draft with John Fanta of Fox Sports. And Ben McKee, our friend from Vols 247, wraps a bow on the Tennessee athletics season. We've got the full crew ready to go here on a Thursday morning with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. How are we?
We're good, man. I think we're good, other than the rain.
Yeah, I'm over it.
You're over it?
Yeah.
I'm not yet.
Time for the sun to come back out.
I'm a big fan.
I'm not yet.
It's my favorite
This
weather.
is not. This is summertime. Gotta have some sunshine.
We've been rolling with sun, though, too. Only reason why I got one purpose, Kayla, that's my yard right now. That's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
I don't have a yard, so
Yeah.
sorry.
You know what? And I'm very sensitive to that, too, Kayla. I understand where you're coming from.
I
on
had a
this
yard growing up, so I
Yeah.
get it. My dad, did the mowing thing.
Yeah. No, mine's
understand.
just getting scorched right now. No amount of water can help it. That's
Honestly,
all it is.
I don't feel like it's been that hot yet, though.
It
I mean,
hadn't.
really, it's not. We're entering the end of June, and I really don't think we've had much hot weather.
Knocking on wood on
Yeah.
that one, if that means anything to you, Kayla.
I'm
Because
sure it'll heat up. I'm not gonna lie.
I
But
was just gonna say it can turn hill real
Sure,
fast
but I'm
out
just
here.
saying it's been a stretch.
Yeah, you're right. Only thing that gets me though is the I guess the tilt of the earth. I guess for the most part, like the front, like I can really tell like when it's wintertime or summertime. Other than
Are
me
you
being
going
a
into
human
scientific
being.
facts here?
No, I'm not. But the sunlight on the front of my house, it just continues throughout the summertime all the time. The way my
Oh.
house sits.
So you heat up.
So it cooks the front yard, even if it's not even super hot
Sure.
or not. So it's just one of those things. First world problems, Kayla. We're talking
know.
about grass this morning, okay?
Well, you know what? The weather, we revolve around it because we get up so early.
We do.
It sets our tone.
We do. That was one of my first questions, though, when I was interviewed for this job.
What?
It was the wintertime question.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Can you handle it?
No, it was, hey, if there's a snow and ice on the ground, do I have to drive in
That's
for it?
funny.
At the time, though, that was, COVID was around. We could do Zoom and stuff, but that was a real question of mine was, what if it's icy outside? Do I have to come into
That's
work?
really
Like, are
funny.
we like mailmen out here, like the Postal Service? Rain, sleet,
When you
snow,
don't grow
hail?
up in it, I get it.
I know. And the thing is, Tennessee's gotten much better at covering the roads when it comes down to snow and stuff like that. I just am always have been terrified of it.
Sure.
I drive like 35 miles per hour on the highway in Pittsburgh when it was just like slushy. And the slush ain't bad. It's
Fair.
the ice that gets you.
Yeah.
What is the best temperature?
The best temperature, my personal best,
Yeah.
78.
80.
Fair.
65.
Oh, fair.
Oh, no.
What?
Yeah,
That's too cold for me.
65 to 60.
65 is kind of pushing it, though. Like clear
65
skies?
60 to 65. You can wear a long sleeve T-shirt and like khaki shorts.
Yeah.
And that's the best temperature.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. My opinion on that one is I do need those short sleeve days though too.
No, of course.
Like I'm with Kayla, 78 to 80 with the low at night at give me about 62 at night, Kayla?
Yeah, that's fine. Like 58 even at night.
That's winning. We can light a
Yeah.
fire then, Kayla.
For sure.
Everything
S'mores.
revolves. Oh, easily. Like
We're in.
was those like your West Coast nights though too?
In the summer, yeah. Yeah, it gets chilly in the summer, actually.
Does it?
So 55. Yeah, 55 about. So it was perfect. You go out, set a campfire, got the lake.
I'll even go as high though as 85.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not terribly
Yeah.
upset with that.
It's those heat indexes of 98 to like 110 that really buries me. Yeah, I've never been a fan of that.
Well, the big headline in sports yesterday, I guess, was Kristaps Porzingis being traded.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
happened as we were all asleep.
pretty much.
Because I went to sleep and it had just broken down. And then literally realized when Robert read out the headlines this morning in his update that actually happened.
Yeah, the NBA draft today for sure. A lot of moves is on the way right now. Porzingis has just been around from a guy supposed to be a phenom to being traded to Dallas, and then that didn't work, and the injuries, and then of course going to DC and
He was in
Boston.
DC?
Yeah, Yeah, he was in D.C.
I was today years old when I realized that he was a Washington Wizard. Legitimately
Been all
had
over.
no. Like I saw a picture of him in a Wizards jersey. He's like, oh, did they Photoshop that? Like, is he going there?
No.
Couldn't tell. Shows you how plugged in I am to the NBA.
He has been there for 2 years.
Has he really?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I literally thought he was still in Dallas.
Isn't that crazy?
No. I thought him and Dallas was going to work out, dog. God, I thought him and Luka was going to work out.
I mean, I definitely watched about 5 minutes of regular season NBA basketball this past year. It was probably on a TV in a bar where I was eating dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm probably with you on that one.
Yeah.
Did I see Marcus Smart went to Memphis?
Yeah.
That's tough.
That'll be
It's unfortunate.
interesting.
He fits right in.
I didn't want to go there because I think Marcus Smart, if anything, I think he's grown up a little bit since his wilder times coming out of college and his first years in the league. But yeah, he's got a little bit of chip.
Yeah, he does. I think he's more mature about it now. I think he'll be good for this is the thing.
I actually do too.
If this is his final destination too.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like the NBA, they'll send you to a place to just sit here for a little while while we find you another place to visit. That's the same thing I think that may be going on with Chris Paul. I don't know if that one's fully finalized as far as him wanting to be there also. I think he's in D.C. too.
It's weird because he just went on this media tour about 2 days ago promoting one of his books, right, on Father's Day. It's about his grandfather who raised him. And it was interesting then because that night then, I guess his son found out via Twitter that he was getting traded.
Yeah.
It was just bizarre because you go on this media tour, you're putting yourself out there, and then you're finding out through your son. It's just, this is the world we live in.
Yep.
It is the world we live in. Insane, man. I'll tell you something else that's insane. NBA players finding out about their trades online from their kids. And the fact that Chris Middleton from the Milwaukee Bucks has declined a $40 million option. You declined.
The money in the NBA is just ridiculous.
It's insane.
Absolutely ridiculous. 615-737-1045 is our number this morning. You've got LSU beating number 1 ranked Forest and setting up a big-time battle for the College World Series semifinal. And the winner gets Florida in the national championship game.
No one's talking about Florida, guys. Travis and I last night were watching or yesterday, I should say, because it was the day game, watching that game. Not a lot of people were talking about Florida, including, and I'll put ourselves in there because we've been focused on the Vols, obviously, that side of the bracket. But it's interesting because it's like even TCU was being talked about.
Way more.
And I just almost forgot, Florida's in it and they've won. And then now, they're in the championship game and it's like, okay, and now you could possibly have an all-SEC final.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was looking yesterday. I was just like, Florida's still in it. They're still in it, and we're not talking about them right now at all.
And they probably like it that people aren't.
I just don't think anyone here is talking about it because Tennessee was on the other side of the bracket.
Yeah.
I still ain't heard it. Well, of course, my social media algorithm is off, so I'm not seeing a whole lot
have
of
an
it.
algorithm.
Well, I don't have
Twitter.
it.
Yeah, true that. Well, your burner account does. But
Stop the laughing in the background.
they've been in that day shift,
Yeah, they have.
whereas not as many people catch it, I guess.
And they hadn't lost either, right? Correctly?
That's
no,
correct.
Florida hadn't lost. But even on ESPN, I feel like nobody's even really mentioning them, Will. Like, I've been flipping through the channels. Not a whole lot of mention of Florida. It's been LSU, Wake Forest.
Yep.
Heck, I'm with Kayla. Even TCU's getting a whole bunch of love.
I've heard
Florida's,
a decent amount.
you have?
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Jack
I'll roll
Caglione is
with
like
you.
Babe Ruth of college baseball because he's a pitcher who also has hit like 30 home runs.
I've heard that story, but
He's a top 3 pick.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is.
615-737-1045. And look at that. Gator Mike is here. Probably to talk about
there
Florida.
he is.
What's up, Mike?
There he is.
What's going on, fellas? And Kayla, sorry.
That's
Not
all right.
much. Good
Yeah,
morning.
nobody talking about my team. They're undefeated. They go right into the championship game. Now, all the wins were only by 1 run, but, you never count them out. They have that offensive firepower. Ramon, you probably didn't know this. 6 of their starters have 10 home runs or more. So we definitely have an offensive football team. We got the pitchers are doing well. Brandon Sproat. You got Neely. You've got Caglione, which Will was talking about.
Yeah.
Which also, too, Will, I think we aren't getting as much love because Caglione not only didn't win the John Olerud Player of the Year, which he had better stats, I thought, than the Clemson dude. But he also got hosed by Dylan Cruz of LSU, and Caglin's stats were better than him. So maybe he'll win the Golden Spikes Award. Who knows? He hasn't had a great series. Wyatt Langford and some of the other guys have stepped up. But, yeah, I think I'm feeling pretty good, and also, too, Wake and LSU are obviously going to go through some of their good guys today for that game. So going into the championship game, I feel pretty good where we're at.
Yep, that's a good point.
Thank you,
Two
Mike.
best pitchers are going at it tonight.
Appreciate the call.
Oh, man.
With Wake and LSU.
Let's go.
They got to use their two best tonight.
I really want to see what Paul's going to look like with this amount of pressure, though, too. Skeens, right? This on the bump for them tonight? Yeah.
And then you got Palomalu on the other side.
Palomalu?
I just call him that because of his hair.
Rhett Lauder.
That's all I'm saying.
His name is Rhett Lauder.
I've been saying that all week.
Yeah, you have, Kayla. I give you that one. You have, Ben.
He's got some good hair.
Coach Dave McGinnis joins us at 7:20 this morning. We'll hit the NFL headlines with him. John Fanta, a broadcaster covering the Big East and the NBA draft for Fox Sports, will join us. He was in Chicago for the NBA draft combine. Got an up-close look at a number of prospects, including Nashville's Ben Shepherd from Belmont and Brandon Miller, of course, from Alabama. We'll get his thoughts on those two guys as well as the entire draft class tonight in the NBA draft. We've got ESPN releasing future power rankings of college football, where Tennessee is included near the top. We'll get to that this morning. And Ben McKee of Go Vols 247 on a day where Tennessee added its third commitment in the last 4 days in football. How quickly the news cycle changes from college baseball to Tennessee recruiting. I would still venture to say, as much as Tennessee baseball has grown, there is still more interest in Tennessee football recruiting than there is Tennessee baseball.
It depends on, summertime. Yeah, I guess they both blend together right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it really blends together. Baseball's been picked up by a lot of new Vols fans, I feel like, too.
I would agree.
I think you agree with that, too.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, seeing these teams now get commitments. We got 2 big ones, I think, yesterday, too.
One yesterday.
One yesterday.
Yep. 615-737-1045, the number. More headlines when we come back, and takeaways from an event that has become a yearly tradition in Nashville. Kayla was at Tight End U yesterday. Also saw the doppelganger of our producer there.
We did.
We'll dive into that coming up next. It's RKW 1045 The Zone.
It's Ramon Foster for Zen Sports, and Zen Sports is the new sports book in Tennessee. Zen Sports is focused on making sports betting better today and always, and they do it in so many ways. First and foremost, with the cash back program, okay? They have so much cash to give back to you, just like the welcome bonus, where you can earn 5% cash back on your bets for the first 15 days of betting on Zen Sports. This bonus is uncapped, and if the user signs up with a referral code, and is capped at $250 if you don't, so you win both ways. The Cash Rewards program also, where you can earn 3% of your betting volume back as a cash deposit to your account every month. This happens every month on the first of every month. You're guaranteed to get that cash back. And of course, the Referral Rewards program too, where you can earn 3% on your referral betting volume as rewards for the first 6 months of betting on Zen Sports as a cash deposit to your account. Best part about it is this. The search and sort bets easily on it, okay? You can set your favorite team, easiest experience possible when making or building parlays too. You can withdraw within 24 hours, deposit funds instantly, and 24/7 customer support. Easy to retract rewards, and even better, no gimmicky promotional bets that look too good to be true and rarely are. Again, the new sportsbook in Tennessee, changing the bonus bet game for the better. So stop settling for Vegas rewards when we're in Tennessee. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. The terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 years or older and present in Tennessee to bet.
It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Coach Tate McGinnis coming up in hour 2. John Fanta of Fox Sports joins us at 8 o'clock. Ben McKee at 9:20, and your phone calls at 615-737-1045. Tight End U has become quite the event in Nashville. Kayla, you were there yesterday. What did you notice?
First of all, this is an incredible thing that they're doing that only continues to grow. I've been here all 3 years, so this is year 3 that they're doing it. The second year that they have held it at Vanderbilt. So the first year it was at Lipscomb when George Kittle, Greg Olsen, and Travis Kelce originally came up with this idea. It wasn't as big that year one because they were trying to just figure out what they exactly were doing. And then they got all these sponsors and people who wanted to sponsor the event so they could do more with it, obviously. And along with that came more guys in the league doing this. I mean, there's probably about every tight end that's in the league that's anybody, maybe who's not anybody yet, who's there, who's here this weekend in Nashville, learning from some of the best. And guys, I will say this, we weren't able to have a ton of access yesterday. However, you could kind of look and see what was going on, who was there. Gronk even there, kind of teaching yesterday. He's obviously no longer playing in the league, but can bring a lot of knowledge to the table with some of these younger guys. A lot of just kind of drills that they were running through, and then they do a lot of classroom work. And I just was really impressed when we talked to Olsen, Kelce, and Kittle, like, why they're doing this and what they want to get out of it. And it's just like we say all the time on the show, iron sharpens iron. And I truly believe they're just trying to help their position continue to gain value. And I think we've seen in the NFL how much value that tight end position has gotten recently and just how much it means. And even Kittle going as far as saying, like, I know wide receivers, they get paid, but what about the tight end, especially those tight ends that are used so much in their offensive system, like a Kelce? Like, they're not getting half that money.
Right. It's fascinating to me, though, Kayla, because the tight end position can be forgotten about. It really can. If you don't have one of those guys, you just mentioned one of those names, guys, or, a previous Gronk, or Delaney Walker has been the guy. Yeah. We're excited about what Chig can bring to it because it's rare you see a dynamic type of tight end or a guy that can really move the chains for you. It's one thing to have a blocker or a guy to give you 2 yards of pop here and there, but when you got a dude, it really accelerates the offense. It really does act as a blanket for the quarterback. That's what I've always kind of referred to as, as a kid, you have your blankie. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the tight end becomes the quarterback's blankie if it's his comfort zone. And I was hearing somebody yesterday speak about the fact that, Tyreek Hill's not on the Kansas City Chiefs. Why? And because they got Kelce. Like, you don't have to go get the big premier guys when you have a guy like him that has the size, has the skill, have the ability to catch and get yak also. And so I almost kind of look at that position as coaches have kind of put it in a box for the most part when you have guys that aren't the big-time guys. So this group right here, with what they're doing with Kittle and Kelce and the rest of them, is just bringing highlight to the fact that, look, we can spread our knowledge to you guys, to a guy like Chig. He should be soaking up every friggin' thing. You know what I'm saying?
And he was there last year, too, by the way, his rookie season. He went to this.
And it's good that they can pour back into that position because you don't want it to happen, what's happened to the running back position or the safety position
devalued
to the tight ends because as much passing has been going on, it's good that they got a group of guys on the forefront and saying, look, we got to either evolve or pass on the information that we have. Imagine how much Kittle is passing on to a young guy or the presence of Gronk.
Yeah.
Like, certain players that you watch and you kind of say to yourself, gosh, I want to do some of the things that he did. And you have now the access to that older guys in the league and younger guys in the league. That, to me, is the best part about it. Nobody's doing anything like this other than the O-line. I think I mentioned it. I don't know if we were on air, off air, and then the quarterbacks.
Right. And I think this is maybe surpassing it.
It may be.
I really do.
I know they do a real good job, though, with Duke Manyweather, with the O-line stuff, but I don't think they make it a destination. It becomes more of a prospect camp for the O-lines. This one is a pro camp for the tight ends in the NFL. This is huge, Kayla.
Yeah.
I just like the optics of it. It's so good because you don't find this often where NFL players stick together like this.
Or if they want to even share their secrets or how they train or
Yeah.
how they run route. I mean, that's the thing. They're sharing all this. The best of the best. They want their other guys on other teams that are part of that position group to be better.
Yes.
So,
How weird is this for defensive players on the teams of guys who are going to like practice with players that their teammates are going to have to cover? Like if I'm, let's say Kevin Byard,
Right.
I'm going to Jake Okonkwo and all the Titans guys saying like, why would you go help guys that I'm going to have to cover every week this season? Like it to me, it's a little weird. It's not a bad thing. I'm not disparaging something that I think obviously there's charitable efforts and it's advancing a position where ultimately long term all these guys would like to hope that they'll make more money because they're advancing the position, so to speak. But how weird is that for their defensive teammates?
It can be weird, but it's almost in almost any sport, though, like the spirit of competition has to take over. Like I can give you all the tips of the trades that you can possibly take, but if you can't beat that guy, then that's on you. There are levels in what type of information you will give a person, though, too. I will say that. Like, I think everybody watches the same amount of film. You say, hey, Von does this against me. Hey, Jeff does this when he lines up in a wide 5 technique. It's those type of conversations that will come up. And I think it becomes a hassle for the guys that's on their teams and not on their teams, too, because you got to think they do battle in camp. Like, Frank Clark versus Travis Kelce was probably a real thing. You know what I'm saying? As far as camp goes, I know what you're saying. The optics of it look like you're helping the opposition, but in general, everybody sees the same thing anyway. I don't think it's a big fuss about it. I say that, but I'd also kind of say too, if you're giving all of my secrets to a D tackle and you're my teammate, I think there is a line. I don't know if those guys don't cross that line. That'd be a fascinating question to ask, though.
I mean, I don't know. And that's something that we could definitely, next year, definitely have that on my radar. Like, what do you maybe not divulge, right, in terms of your information or whatever? Because you never want to give another team a competitive advantage in any way. But the way that Kittle, especially, and Greg Olsen, who played a number of years in the league, and Kelsey, the way they run things, I feel like they've kind of addressed that somehow before they even decided to grow this. But definitely something that I would agree, Will. Like, you do think about that. But like Kittle was saying, like, we look at this as our own business, right? And we want our business to grow. And when he talks about the business, I think he just means the tight end's position. Because I think really in the end, you guys, I do really think what they want to do is increase the pay of that position. I mean, that seems to be like, this is what we do. This is what we're putting into it. This is how we're valued. Give us our money. I don't know if that's going to happen, but they're going to continue to push it.
They are going to continue to push it. The selling of secrets, though, I wonder how much of that is on like a projector. I doubt it's that much. I will say this: if there's a guy I've had a hard problem with and I've seen you beasting him, hey man, what are you doing against him? I know I would ask that question.
Sure.
I've had other D linemen. I told you guys before. I had Trey Smith, VFL, asked me, how do you defend this guy? And I simply just walked through him basically as far as tape goes. It like I said, all the information is there. It's a matter of those guys being able to be in vet situations and to be able to honestly be transparent, because you guys know this too. You've been around in locker rooms, a part of locker rooms, or just a part of the game. Like the ego of each other really stops a lot of progress. It just does. Yeah. You have a hard time sometimes. Hey, bro, I don't really know how to block this dude. How did you block him? Like, guys don't ask those questions. So to have all that laid out in front of you, I think is super cool. But I don't think it's to the point to where it just takes over the Patriots type of situation.
Right.
You know
There's
what
like
I'm saying?
it's almost like a respect for knowing that all these guys are on different teams, that they are going to compete against each other. Because, look, you've got quarterbacks from the league in here throwing to them.
Right.
I know last year Josh Allen was here. Zach Wilson was here.
Yeah.
I didn't spot a ton of guys. I spotted Josh Dobbs at the end of practice.
Was there. Okay.
But again, we were only allowed to see the end. But I'm sure there's other guys there. So
615-737-1045, our number this morning if you want to join in on the conversation. We go to Chris in Nashville up next with us on the phone lines. What's up, Chris?
What's up, Chris?
Hey, good morning, y'all. I just had a question for Kayla. She may have just answered it. Is that tight end university at any point during their stay available for viewing from the public? And I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, Chris, great question. And I really do think maybe as this continues to grow, if they do open up more so for, the complete public, like even if it's capped off at a number, right now it's pretty much people that are close to the tight end university kind of community, whether that be, I think, is it Barstool Sports?
Yeah,
that's
Barstool's
come in
there recording a bunch of podcasts
Yep.
on Pardon My Take.
Like Taylor Lewan was there with Will Compton yesterday, so people kind of close to it. And then the media, we're let in for a really short amount of time, like yesterday, because they actually did a really great event raising $50,000 for literacy and that kind of advocating literacy, I should say, because George Kittle's father was a teacher growing up. So George Kittle is a big believer in reading. So they are also giving back to the community, doing this type of stuff, raising money and giving back. Like that's another huge part of this tight end we don't even mention. So there were kids from around the Nashville area. They were invited yesterday to go watch practice.
Nice.
So we covered that event. But yeah, right now not open to the public completely, but I wouldn't count that out in the future the way this thing's growing.
Is to y'all's point earlier, Kayla, I think you mentioned this too. This is because of the importance of how these guys are looked at as far as franchise tagging, as far as payout, as far as guys like Kittle, Kelsey, Darren Waller, potentially a guy like Chig can value themselves so much like a wide receiver position where raise our floors, what this is about too.
I think so. I really do. The way that they talked about it. And
as far as pay goes.
Yes. Yeah, that seemed to be the underlying theme of like, look, this is why we're going to continue to get out here and, again, put value on our position.
I guess one of the things, too, I'm saying is Kittle said this about Kelsey. I'll just read it real quick. He said he's like one or two, and that's with wide receivers. Tight ends, running backs, doesn't matter who it is. He makes half as much as the NFL's leading wide receivers, and that really bothers me.
There you go. That was the end of the quote, that one of the sound bites I put up.
Not losing yourself, basically, Kayla, in this world of NFL money and business. That's so big.
These are some smart dudes, too. Let me tell you that much.
This is a deeper conversation when it comes down to other positions. Like I said, the safety and the running back position. But not only that, though, too, to have these guys realize that their importance is really taking a back burner, unless you're Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, right? Maybe a couple other guys in this league. Their importance can take a back seat the same way as I look at, let's go this position. Of course, I'm going to go the O-line in Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Nobody speaks about that.
that.
Nobody knows how to judge it. Nobody actually has taken the steps to actually make them important.
It's almost like they're lazy to not want to take the steps to try to figure it out.
Yes. And they're getting to the forefront of it right now.
There we
I
go.
love it. I
love it too.
Yeah.
I would admit next year maybe it can get y'all to come out too, because I think you guys, even the short amount we were able to see, just listening to those guys in person, man, they're smart. They're doing some good stuff.
Think about it. Guys aren't, and I know guys aren't dumb, but the idea that, look, we belong in the conversation. It's so important. If somebody had done this for the running backs, what would their position be right now?
And that was my next question was what other position needs to band together to help themselves?
Yep.
It's got to be running back.
Got to be
I think
running
so,
backs
Will.
first. Has to be.
Because ultimately you need some kind of union of running backs. Like it legitimately feels like tight ends have created their own players union.
I think so, Will.
Like their own sect of it. And quarterbacks are always given that platform when they just come into the league. Like Will Levis and C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson going to a summit in Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
To basically meet with CEOs and meet with Tom Brady.
Sure. And they're getting money.
Right.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah. Malik Willis last year. Did you say that? He even went last year as the third-round pick. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's first-round O-linemen or running backs, well, not running backs necessarily, that don't get to that NFL, what is that, the NFL premiere.
Yeah.
For rookies and stuff.
Peter Skronsky wasn't there, but Tajay Spears was
a
couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, it does become bothersome, and the NFL likes to promote certain images.
It's funny looking at the highest-paid tight ends in the NFL. Some of these guys are just no names that are in the top 10 of this.
Wow.
Like Hunter Henry's the second highest paid tight end in the National Football League, ahead of Travis Kelce. Mark Andrews is fourth. Zach Ertz in the top 5. You've got Will Dissly and Tyler Higbee.
Will who?
Will Dissly from Seattle.
Sorry, Kayla. I didn't
No. I mean,
Top
he's
10
not.
highest paid
He's
tight
not
ends.
anything big over there.
I
I mean, they've got
you've
their
got
wide receivers.
Taysom Hill, who's paid in the top 15 tight ends of the NFL,
Wow.
ahead of Darren Waller, who's 23rd. And then all the way down at 83rd, you have Chigakonkwo, the 83rd highest paid tight end in the NFL
Yeah.
It really is
on
a
his rookie
thing.
deal.
That's a real thing. Safeties, maybe. I guess the secondaries will be another position, right? Well,
You get some, I don't know. I don't think secondary really is the same.
safety.
Safety,
You'd have to-
more on track there.
Yeah, isolate that.
More,
from
yeah, we got to
corner.
isolate it. Running back.
If you were going to pick something on defense, maybe like the differential between edge, defensive end, and outside linebacker. Because like that's what they fight for at the franchise tag. I feel like
True.
every year there's a guy who's like, don't pay me like a defensive lineman.
Yeah.
I am an edge rusher. So maybe that would be the qualifier.
They want edge.
I had
They
a
want that
teammate
edge.
change his position because of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Change his position on the paper. Did Jeff go through that? Was it somebody here
Jeffrey
recently?
Simmons, no.
I don't think so.
Or we may have been talking about his all-pro status versus DN versus D tackle.
I think that conversation was when Harold Landry perhaps was
Yes.
in contract negotiations.
That's what it
Because
was.
he plays so much defensive end and a
Yeah.
Sure.
front 4 versus outside linebacker and a 3-4.
That's what that was.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump in. And coming up next, a nemesis of the Tennessee Volunteers receives a little bit of discipline yesterday. We'll tell you who that is coming up next on Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
Okay, so it's Ramon and Kayla, first of all, with Window Nation, our friends there. We were talking about this earlier, like, oh, yeah, it's rainy. It's kind of cool out. Well, enjoy it while you can because it's about to get hot. It's about to get sticky, humid. And that means, guess what? AC going up, Moan, and your energy bills also going to increase. So why not beat the heat now with Window Nation's summer sale? It's a good one. You can save thousands today with no money down, no payments, and no interest for 2 whole years. Plus, our friends at Window Nation are going to give you 2 free windows with every 2 you buy. You cannot beat that, but you can beat the heat. Protect and increase the value of your home today. Check them out at windownation.com.
Kayla, sometimes it's good to just brag to them. Window Nation, they can brag a little bit because all they do is windows and they are experts at it. They've installed over 200,000 windows last year. That's 40 times more than the average window company, with 96% of them requiring no follow-up service. They measure each window 3 times to ensure proper fit. Over 10,000 online positive reviews. And Kayla, we're going to give you a stat line right here,
Do it.
000. You know what that means? For 2 years, no money down, no payments, and pay no interest for 2 full years. Plus, buy 2 windows and get 2 windows free on any style from Window Nation. I promise you it's the best thing you can do. Simply call them 866-90Nation or go online to windownation.com.
Thursday morning on RKW, and it's powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville. 615-737-1045 is our number if you would like to jump in. And the NCAA has given another Memphis head coach a suspension. It's Groundhog Day. Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway has been suspended by 3 games by the NCAA for recruiting violations and violating head coach responsibility rules. An infractions panel announced yesterday the violations are tied to 2 in-home visits in 2021 with a recruit from the class of 2023 who was referred to by the NCAA as a, quote, highly rated men's basketball prospect. Penny Hardaway conducted in-home visits with the player in September of his junior year season, and 2 weeks later, Penny had an in-home visit with him. According to NCAA rules, coaches can only have in-person contact with high school juniors at the prospect's school. That was always interesting when you were in class with somebody, and the first time you were in like math. And like the quarterback of the football team got pulled out of class. You're like, oh, what's going on? And you come back in and be like, oh, like insert random school here was here to see me. It's like, oh, really? No way.
It was so cool.
The first thing I thought was, I text you guys this. I'm like, I'm Penny Hardaway.
Penny
God, what is he doing now?
He's
That
getting
song
it the
is-
hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. I have heard of that one,
Yeah.
Yeah. But
unfortunately.
Penny learning the rules, man. He's
In real time.
He's learning the rules in real time, Kayla. That's exactly what's going on, man. Memphis has always kind of had that, I don't even want to call it black cloud, gray cloud.
No,
over.
call it a black cloud.
Well, I grew up
They don't
enjoying it, but they've always just been the group that's kind of tapped the line a little bit every once in a while, and specifically when it comes to basketball. Basketball is their thing. The country of Memphis dwells there, man, okay? And I can call it that because that's, you know what Memphis did to me, Kayla?
What?
Made me a football player.
There you go.
Made you move to Knoxville?
Right?
They made
you move down the road.
They made me a football player,
Yep.
man. I walked in that gym for AAU and saw those dudes who was 6'7", the same size I was, just dunking effortlessly, throwing it off the backboard. I was like, no, I'm athletic, but I'm not that athletic. But they care about the game a lot, man. We know that much as I even will. I'm sure you did too. I went to people that are Tennessee alum. They're Memphis State basketball fans.
Correct.
Yeah.
They play both sides well, too, Kayla.
I had
Yeah.
a fraternity brother from Memphis who was a huge Tennessee football fan and like a big Memphis basketball fan.
I get it.
It's just like the people I was talking about who are I knew people that were Tennessee football fans and Vandy baseball fans.
Yeah.
Like it's from Nashville. Like it's that's the team that if you're from that area, it like represents your city.
Especially if you're a basketball fan, right? Because we don't have NBA here.
Right.
And I know that that's not the NBA. Obviously, we're talking about Memphis here, the college. But I just keep thinking, like, do they keep getting in their own way? Because you had to hire a Penny, and you thought, okay, this is a chance now for this program to get back on the map consistently, to be a powerhouse that's competing. And honestly, guys, since I've lived here the last several years, it's just one thing after another coming out of Memphis. One violation after another, one incident with a player after another. And it's like, can they get out of their way? I mean, that's my honest question. Can they?
The answer seems to be no when it comes down to what they got going on. Heck, they got one of the highest prospects. Well, one of the higher prospects with the viral kid. I'm going to find his name here in a second. Mikey. He's Mikey Williams. Here he is. I'm not even sure if he's going to be able to enroll. The last report I saw was, him wielding a gun. I think it was in California. I think he had a situation like that. I'm not sure what's going on with them, but Mike, I know, has a social media following outside of this world. Like, it gets really deep with how big of a star he is. He's like the girls from LSU or from Miami.
Dunn?
Yes, he's like a little bit
Twins
Dunn.
and-
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah,
Cabinet.
Twins.
He's got a following, but
Is
I'm
he
not.
out of California?
San Diego. Yes,
Okay.
he is. So they had him to headline their class. He's got a solid class there as far as rankings for next year. For this year, I mean, coming in. But heck, the highest rated one may not be able to enroll this year unless they drop the charges in the in-between time.
I mean, the history of Memphis basketball all the way back to the 90s, they've had 3 coaches be in trouble. And including John Calipari, of course, and all the Derrick Rose SAT stuff or ACT stuff. Having someone else take the test for him that was never. It's Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've always. This is what happens when you go inside the AAU world to get a coach who is instrumental in AAU basketball, which is a sticky place to coach and recruit. I mean, that AAU basketball is intense.
It's very intense.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a smart place to go, considering that you've got a legend in your city who's right there in Penny. But he just hasn't really been able to put together the recruiting and the development of a lot of those 5 stars. And maybe that's a conversation the next time we have Slay on, because he could probably speak to that better than I can.
Yeah. So that situation is he's facing 6 felony gun charges, Mikey Williams is.
Okay.
I was going to say, yeah, not Penny.
Yeah, no, not Penny, not
But
Penny.
I don't mean that's not a great setup then to be going then to Memphis.
And his hearing is postponed to July 12th. It said he pled guilty and whatnot, but this is just a fascinating situation where you have your coach get in trouble, you got your players get in trouble too. Penny's got 3 games. That's a wash for him.
Yeah,
though. I will say that.
no.
That's a wash.
Still not going to play Tennessee.
He's still ducking?
Well, they're ducking each other. That's a game that should always be played, and it's not for
I was expecting you to
a number
lean
of
in.
reasons.
I
No, I mean, I'm
I
not.
don't think that helps Memphis.
Yeah. 615-737-1045, the number. Coming up next, we've got tickets to give away to the NHL Awards hosted by Dierks Bentley here in Nashville. That is coming up this weekend. June the 26th, you've got the NHL's most prestigious award, some of country music's biggest acts as well. We'll tell you how you can get those tickets coming up here in just about 5 minutes. Plus an hour 2, Coach Dave McGinnis stops by, Titans Radio's head coach. We'll ask him about the differences in getting opinions from players at your position around the league and how he, as a defensive coach, values or maybe devalues something like tight end U. We'll talk about that coming up in hour 2 as we continue on a Thursday morning here on RKW.
It's 7 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Big day in the NBA. The draft is tonight, starting at 6:30, and moves are already being made. One in Milwaukee, as three-time All-Star forward Chris Middleton has declined his $40 million player option with the Milwaukee Bucks to become a free agent. Woj reports a return to the Bucks on a new deal remains a possibility for Middleton. And the big trade from yesterday, Boston, one of the three teams in the trade, receives Kristaps Porzingis, Memphis' first-round pick this year, which is number 25, Golden State's first-round pick from Memphis for next year. Washington receives Tyus Jones, Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala, and Memphis receives Marcus Smart. In college basketball, speaking of Memphis, NCAA suspends Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway for the first three games of the 23 season for recruiting violations per John Rothstein. And in the College World Series, LSU forces a winner-take-all game against Wake Forest, beating them 5-2. The rubber meets the road tonight for both teams at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Hour number 2 on your Thursday morning. Welcome to your Thursday here on RKW. As always, we're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And as always, at 7:20, we talk ball with Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio's resident head coach. Stops by coming up in 15 minutes. We always look forward to that. And we always look forward to having a full crew in studio like we have today. That's Ramon Foster. She's Kayla Anderson. Behind the glass, there's Robert Walsh. My name is Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the discussion. We've got some tickets to give away in 5 minutes, so get those dialing fingers ready.
Oh, baby.
As we might be able to send you to the NHL Awards here in Nashville.
Be cool.
Big time.
On Monday, baby.
Some news yesterday in the world of college football. The executive director of the college football playoff, Bill Hancock, announced his retirement. He will retire when his contract expires February the 1st, 2025. The college football playoff announced following a routine meeting in California yesterday. 72 years old, Bill Hancock, one of the nicest guys you'll meet in college football. Had the chance to say hello to him the past couple of years at the SEC Media Days in Hoover and in Atlanta. And he is scheduled to take on a consultant role to the new executive director. When the CFP expands from the current playoff to the 12-team format beginning in 2024. He was the executive director of the CFP a few months after it was created in 2012. So the only college football playoff executive director that they've had, and ultimately is more of a PR person than he is someone that chooses teams that actually make the playoffs. So Nick Saban, he is not the person for you to continue complaining to about your team not making it this past year.
It's good. Good for him, I guess, being part of this to set this up. Well, I just look at it as like I wonder if he's been forced out, or is it age, or how you look at what his role
72.
is. 72. It's fascinating. He also gets to stay on as a consultant and get paid too. So I guess
That's
part
right.
of it, you walk yourself to the door with a bunch of checks. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, this is the time that I think you're going to have to start to see some new kind of brains in there in terms of the college football playoff. With things changing, it's expanding. Having him around still, though, as sort of a mentor when he's kind of one of the originals is not a bad thing. I don't know how much he'll really have in terms of input, but he can help guide maybe some of these new folks that come aboard in the future. But again, this is, to me, like still a growing process. Like it's evolving still with college football evolving. I just feel like we're not set yet in terms of everything that we're going to see in the future. Because, again, it just keeps changing. And until it stops and we have a consistent plan, I think that there's still going to be new ideas that are going to be imposed. And we're not going to see the same old thing year after year yet.
No, I wonder what this does to the committee, though, with the lumping of these super conferences almost that they're getting themselves into now. And also the weight in which teams will be judged when it comes down to the playoffs, too. I had a buddy of mine send me, I think it was Oregon's schedule. And he was just like, look how cake this is. But what if Oregon goes, 11-1, they got to be in the conversation for a college football playoff potentially, too.
Every time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oregon, the most overrated school. Anyway.
There she
Love
Sorry.
it. Love it, Kayla. Go off.
He was the only employee at the time of the CFP beginning, Bill Hancock. The commissioners originally directed him to finalize details of media rights agreements, negotiate agreements with bowl games and championship game host cities. Bill Hancock deserves credit for a lot of the infrastructure that was built within the college football playoff. In its phasing out from a 4-team playoff, though, like we said, essentially you're losing the CFP's PR guy in Bill Hancock, not a guy that is in those meetings choosing teams.
Yeah.
But you have the 10 commissioners of the FBS conferences and the Notre Dame athletic director.
Notre Dame
have all the
always
power.
get a seat
They're
at the
always
table.
in there.
Always.
They're not a part of a
Always.
conference, though. I feel like they always have to keep themselves relevant somehow.
They're
They're
always.
relevant. I mean, the
No,
reason
that's-
why they don't go to a conference, too, is so
Yeah.
they don't lose that seat at the table.
Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I love my guy Mike Golick Jr., but they always in everybody's
They're
business.
always
boy.
somewhere.
Something to watch on whoever gets hired next by the college football playoff as the executive director. I want to see if that follows the trend of TV executives getting jobs in leadership of college football.
Let's
Because-
not work for the Pac-12.
Well, it's worked for the Big Ten. I mean, every new commissioner now is a TV executive, and even athletic directors. I mean, Notre Dame's new AD,
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing.
TV guy.
Some things just don't need to be mixed.
Yeah, I just think it's the business
is
model
mixed.
and the
It's the same thing.
conversation. Yeah,
But it's just like, I just don't know, like, when you're talking about these TV people and then getting in, or these executives getting involved then and being a conference, commissioner, like there's so many different parts to being a commissioner that don't align with, I mean, there's more than just TV. I know that's a big chunk of it because it's the money part of it, but you still got to run a conference in other ways.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once they got rid of Larry Scott, which was garbage, and then they brought in George Klick. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. It's Klikoff. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Anyway, he's like a TV guy, right?
Yeah.
Executive, and they bring him in, more of an entertainment type of guy, and they still can't get a deal done. And it's been 2 years.
They keep
It's just like, what are we doing here?
the documentary about this downfall is going to be epic. Like, how you be in the driver's seat of
Paul
allowing
Feinbaum
this
already
happen?
predicted in 2026 they're done.
2026.
That's what Paul Feinbaum said the other
I would
day.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, and I say this respectfully, when you have a team like, and I hate to even say it, but I'm saying it anyway, San Diego State bidding for the Pac-12, I never in a million years would ever thought San Diego State would have been a part of the Pac-12.
And they might end up being nomads because
Yeah.
their current conference won't let them stay for another month. And Pac-12's got to figure out a TV deal before they can add anybody else.
Yeah. Kliakov. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Kliakov.
I wanted to
Right.
make sure. George Kliakov.
I mean, at this point, like we had this conversation last week. When you just treat sports like their inventory for TV,
Yeah.
you're less surprised when everything is dictated by TV.
Yeah.
Like television is the only reason why we have an 8-game schedule in the SEC and not 9. It's the reason why FSU and Clemson are starting that conversation about the ACC and moving elsewhere. And it's why USC and UCLA are in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Because of TV.
Yeah, it is.
So, I mean, it makes sense that you have more leadership of television executives who are basically creating TV shows for us all to watch, played by college football players.
Goodness.
That's where the sport is going because, honestly, the worst part of college football for me now is that you have non-football people making football decisions.
My thing is this,
Yes.
though, Will, is it because of us? Are we the problem in it, though, too?
What do you mean?
They're selling it to us because we continue to consume it.
We're going to watch it.
Yeah.
It's like when we get mad at the NFL and we suspend them for Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we watch them again on Thursday. It's like, you know what? I'm so mad at the National Football League after Monday Night Football and how bad it was. I'm going to suspend them until Thursday. Thursday night at 6, to be exact. We've got some tickets to give away to the NHL Awards. A great event going on here in Nashville this weekend, hosted by Dierks Bentley, coming here to Smashville See the NHL's most prestigious awards and some of country music's biggest acts at Bridgestone Arena June the 26th. That is coming up. And right now, be caller number 5 to win a pair of tickets to see the NHL Awards. 615-737-1045. Bridgestone Arena, the place to be. That is Monday night next week. Hosted by Dierks Bentley. 615-737-1045. Be caller number 5. Talk to Robert Walsh, and you will be headed to Bridgestone Arena Monday.
It's pretty cool. It's like quaint too. So you'll be right there kind of with the, stars and country people and NHL's biggest names.
That's a big night for
giving away the awards.
Absolutely.
615-737-1045. And looks like we've already got
Phone lines are there.
lots of callers
Yes.
to talk to Robert Walsh and grab those tickets. Coach Tate McGinnis is coming up here in just a few minutes. I want to ask him the value of players going to summits like Tight End U and how much has peer-to-peer coaching grown in the National Football League? I think from the outside perspective, it feels like things like Tight End U are very new and very revolutionary. But I'm curious how much of this has really gone on in the past that we just never knew about. So we'll dive into that with Coach Dave McGinnis coming up here in just a few minutes. His weekly visit on RKW on the other side as we continue here on 104.5 The Zone.
You can upgrade her diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Don't miss this killer offer from Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0 interest financing. And not just on engagement rings also. You have earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone, jewelry, pre-owned Rolex watches. You can buy now and pay nothing down and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 gift comes out to just $85 a month. And a luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariner or Datejust or Explorer starts at only $150 a month. This is an insane offer from the jeweler that always finding ways to bring you more value. All GIA certified diamonds are included in this. Rounds, princess cuts, ovals, pear shapes, cushion diamonds, emerald cuts. Whether you can get a $5,000 diamond or a $50,000 diamond, you can spread your payments over 5 whole years. Lab-grown diamonds are included in this also. You get the Genesis value price on anything you can spread your payments over 5 years. But hurry, this is a limited time offer, and the offer ends July 1st and will not be extended. Genesis Diamonds located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Thursdays at 7:20, where you can hear Titans Radio's head coach right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. We're powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And our visits with Coach Dave McGinnis are presented by our friends at Farm Bureau Health Plans. Better rates, better coverage, and better service. That's why Tennesseans have been relying on Farm Bureau Health Plans for their health coverage for over 76 years. What's going on, Coach Mack? How are you?
Well, good. Kayla, Ramon, everybody good this morning?
We're good, Coach.
No
I heard
complaints.
it's hot where you are.
Look, I landed in Lubbock, Texas on Monday. My brother picked me up. It was a nice, cool 108. It's been 108 since. It's going to cool off today. Of course, there were so many tornadoes last night. Last night was a violent weather here. I mean, it's West Texas in the summer. I mean, and it's going to cool off to 97 today, so we're good.
Coach Mack, some of my favorite stories that I've heard, that's a low pressure system there in West Texas. Some of my favorite stories I've heard from you are about ways you tried to stay cool playing high school football in the state of Texas, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, the summertime. I mean, you're going to have two-a-days. Of course, in the era that I grew up here,
Right.
And you're going to have two-a-days. And you're going to be full pads two-a-days. And that was back in the time when somebody made the wise decision that if you had water, you were weak. So no water out there. So we invented a lot of ways to be able to get water. One of the best things we ever did was we used to stick straws in our socks, and then we had an underground watering system because all the fields were really nice fields, but it was hotter than hell. But you could get somebody to stand around you, and then you could get down between drills when somebody else was doing the drill and try to suck water out of the underwater water system. What? With a straw. Yeah, I mean, and the other thing is they were really smart because then with no water, they sent you out loaded up with salt tablets because they thought that would keep you all right.
Yep.
Wow.
We're really lucky. Those of us that played back in the day like that, where it was really junction boys, when you were out there practicing, that we weren't all mummified by the time we were 18 years old.
Right.
Coach Mack, I've actually seen, I'm from a really small town, and we had old equipment that was rusty and shoulder pads that really had no pads on it too. And I remember when I first played football, Coach Mack, we went into the equipment room. There they were, a bottle of salt tablets, Coach Mack. Still, probably from the 80s.
Yeah, everybody get a handful of salt tablets before you go out and sweat it out. But that's supposed to replace. I mean, there were some things that they didn't know a lot of, and we would practice twice a day, and of course you'd never wash your practice stuff between practices, so you'd be putting that. I mean, it was probably not good for you.
No,
probably not. Coach Dave McGinnis with us here, presented by Farm Bureau Health Plans. Coach Mack, along those same lines, we were talking about Tight End U and the Tight End Summit that essentially goes on here in Nashville with Greg Olson, George Kittle, and Travis Kelce. What is the value from the coach's perspective for your players going to something like this and learning from other players around the league at their position?
Yeah, I think it's great, Will. For years and years and years. I mean, ever since I started way back when, coaches have gotten together in the off season, always different coaches. I mean, you would find groups, and you would create new groups to get together and trade ideas, and I mean, I think it's great. It really is, and the more legitimate the guys are that kind of start it and get it going, the more legitimate it's going to be. But I think it's really good. I think it's beneficial. Tight end U is one of the better ones. The offensive linemen have it now. They have a pass rush seminar that players put on together. I think it's very, very beneficial. I just know this, as a young coach growing up, those types of things were just vital to my development as far as just learning, about the business, and then just trade, because you can't manufacture experience. And if you've got experienced players or experienced coaches willing to share with the younger, people coming up, some of the inside tricks of the trade or some of the inside things that you do need to know, that if you have to find out for yourself, sometimes it takes years of just hands-on experience to do it. I mean, I think it's really, really good. I think, ask Chigakonkwo when he came in. Of course, it was right there in his hometown. And I think, he benefited from it. I have not heard one player And of course, I still talk to a lot of players that have not benefited from going to these things because, first of all, it's a relaxed atmosphere, but you have 3 or 4 or 5 days as to where you can just work out, but also trade a little secrets. And they're not really secrets, but they're little finite points that you pick up with experience, and being able to transfer that to the younger players or the younger coaches coming up, whatever the case may be. I think it's really good. I mean, at this point in my career, I'm always willing to dedicate my time to young coaches, and I have people that ask me to give some coaching points on the linebackers to their high school players, to their sons coming out. Say, Coach Mack, would you spend 3 or 4 hours? Would you mind doing that? I mean, look, if you're not willing to give back after everything that you've been given, all of us that have made reached a certain point in our careers, then there's something wrong with you.
And Coach Mack, it feels like we talk a lot about the tight end position right now, considering the generational talent at that position we've seen from Rob Gronkowski to Kelsey and Kittle, obviously still playing, and Greg Olsen, who is a part of starting this thing. When, in your opinion, did the tight end position become such a valuable spot in an offense? Because it feels like we're talking about generational talents, kind of like I mentioned, that are the best in the history of that position that have really been either finishing up their careers or playing over these past 5 to 10 seasons.
Well, yeah, it's been an emphasis, I think, with the offense, but really, Will, when you look back on it, I mean, the forefathers of all this were Mike Ditka and John Mackey, Kellen Winslow Sr. Think back to some of the great tight ends that coaches that had enough foresight to understand. I mean, George Halas was the one that made Mike Ditka, not only just, a beast being able to block people, but a real threat, catching the football downfield. He and John Mackey and the Colts were 2 of the first, and that's why they were 2 of the first into the Hall of Fame in the tight end position, because they were revolutionary back there in their time. But as the entire sport, start becoming revolutionized, and these wideouts have started to become, they're like power forwards now in basketball, where it's a very, very, group that they have very specific skill sets, but also it doesn't have to be about a size disadvantage. They have to be able to maneuver in the open field. I mean, we've got a great example of that right there at the Titans now with Chiga Okonkwo. This is a guy that caught on pretty quickly to what it was playing tight end in the National Football League. But you are right in saying this, Will. The evolution of the wide open offenses has really, really expanded that role, and some people now have a hard time differentiating between them and the bigger, taller receivers, and it's all about mismatches now. And also the way the game has evolved, with it being more and more, egregious to be able to hit receivers, touch receivers after 5 yards. Most of your combat catches, if there's any contact at all, it's always going to lean towards a defensive penalty rather than an offensive penalty if 2 guys are colliding for a football. So I think all of this stuff has lent itself to that. But you're right in saying this. More and more younger players coming up through the ranks are opting to play the tight end position because it's a position now that is featured in a lot of these wide open offenses.
And Coach, when I was talking to George Kittle yesterday, one of the things that he emphasized is, we are so unique and we do everything, but yet our value maybe isn't exactly where we want it to be. And I think that's one of the things, the emphasis on doing a camp like this is just to continue to increase the value of this position. Do you feel like the value at least could be emphasized in the future?
Well, to me, value, comes on what somebody's, and again, each team is different, but as a whole, what you're willing to allocate as far as your salary cap goes, to one position. The thing that's happening though now, Kayla, that is different is that, used to be you would only keep maybe 2 tight ends on a roster.
Okay.
People are starting to keep 3 and 4 now.
Sure.
3 and 4 on a 53-man roster. I think that, number one, has increased at least the numbers, and then so I would say the value has increased, maybe monetarily, as far as, your quarterbacks are always going to get the major share of anything that's going on. And then it's always then it has gone now to the guys that can protect on the edge and the guys that can get to the quarterback off of the edge. And then it goes to the explosive plays that happen. It goes to the receivers that can create them and for the defensive backs that can prevent them. And so to me, the tight end, always kind of fits right in there with what safeties are right now. They're involved in everything, just like linebackers are. I do know this as a coach, and I'm talking about as a lifetime coach, and then when you're looking to put together a coaching staff, you know that you have to have somebody as your tight end coach that is very, very in tune with both the run and the pass game, because those guys have to do both. And the coaching aspect of it, Kayla, the tight end position has become a pretty good avenue for ascension into coordinators and head coaches now, as to where it used to not be.
And Kittle mentioned that too. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that leads me to the question of just having Tony Dews move to that tight end coaching position. Just how much do you feel like the tight ends can benefit from a guy like that in the growth this year of some of them?
Well, Tony Dews is an excellent football coach.
Yeah.
I've watched him for the 8 years I've been back here now, doing the broadcast and just watching practice, and watching him coach. I mean, he's an excellent football coach, and his knowledge goes beyond the running backs.
Yep.
And so anytime that players are able to be exposed to a coach that is able to teach them things that will be able to help them not only on the field, but to help them be a professional and help them advance being a professional, so they can take advantage of all of their skills early on, helps. Tony Dews is an excellent football coach. So absolutely his players will benefit from that.
Coach, I have to ask you, too, with the fighting that the tight ends have for each other, as far as just trying to make sure that they're represented and compensated. Also, Coach, man, we were speaking a little bit about the HOF, the Hall of Fame, a little bit. There's one position I think kind of gets overlooked other than specialists when we're talking about gold jackets, and that's usually the interior offensive line. Has there ever been anything or any coalition to kind of push that to the forefront as far as recognition of how to get guys into the Hall, Coach, as we talk about representation?
Well, first of all, it's about performance. And basically at that position, Ramon, of course, the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame is about two things, and I know a lot of people that are on that panel that have been on it for years. But a lot of it is first of all contribution, to the success of your team, and then longevity. Okay, longevity has a lot to do with it. Availability has a lot to do with it. And when you start talking about that position, I think you can start looking at the guards. I mean, there's guards from back in the day. Tom Mack at the Rams that used to come visit us out there. Is an offensive guard that's in the Hall of Fame. I think that longevity, and also the thing that happens there, Ramon, I think you will understand this, and we've got sophisticated listeners, so I think they'll understand when I'm saying this. It's hard unless you're really dialed into what nuances of football, for just the uninitiated to watch a football game and be able to zero in on really how an offensive guard is being successful or not over a period of time. And so that, I think, comes with the knowledge of people that are involved, first of all, with looking and watching, and then also having a experience that they know that, look, this guy did this for a long time on this team, and this is what he was able to contribute. But the numbers, when you're playing an offensive guard in the league, and I'm not telling you anything you don't know, you don't ever have numbers. There's not any numbers ever assigned to your name other than the number on your back. But so the people that are involved on the inside of it that really understand it, that's where the promotion for that position has to come from. Because even different than tackles are on the edge where, you can see them.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. But that whole center guard triangle is so vital to what goes on really in the guts of a football game. Football people know it, but it's hard for people just to sit back and casually watch it and say, you know what, that guard really had a hell of a game.
No doubt about it. Mac, and the other part of that, too, who needs to have a hell of a game is the young quarterbacks on this Tennessee Titans team come fall, right? We've kind of heard that, Malik looks a little bit better. I'm sure you've seen some stuff to say, okay, there's progress. But, of course, you got the new shiny toy this year. That's Will Levis. And also Tannehill playing lights out. For a team that usually, and these trends can always be broken, usually only carry 2 quarterbacks, Coach Mac, is it an idea that they could potentially carry 3 this year with how everything shakes up? And where do you actually take from if you're adding an extra quarterback to the Tennessee Titans roster?
Well, you're taking from somebody.
Yeah.
You're taking from some position right now. And three is really – and, I like the rule where they can have 3 available, but they put the caveat on there, and they were smart in doing this. They have to be on the 53. Mm-hmm. They have to be on the 53. So you've got to make a decision as an organization as to the value of that third quarterback. And I think a lot of it has to do with what you feel like the health, or you feel like the production, or you feel like the viability of your first 2 are. Yeah. Now you can never predict injury, correct? I mean, last year Shanahan out there in San Francisco, he could never predict that he was going to be down to 0, at quarterbacks come playoff time. You never could predict that. But this is not something that's new. I mean, Walter Payton played quarterback for the Bears in a couple of games where they ran out of people. All right? So this is not something that is just unique now to this day and age of football. But to me, the only issue is to me, Ramon, is the rules now are such that they protect the quarterback physically so much that they're away unless they get injured. Just like our quarterback got injured with a high ankle sprain. Well, how are you going to prevent that? But the rules have been made such that they have taken the physical beatings as much as they can on a daily, game to game, play by play basis off of the quarterbacks. To me, this would be a decision that will be made, team by team by team. But I think the viability of your first 2, as far as you figure can win you ball games on a consistent basis, that's going to be a big thing. The thing that you will see, I think, most of all, is people. The thing that's helped this situation, Ramon, is the 16-man practice squad. Yeah. Okay. And if people say, well, if you let them go, somebody's going to pick them up. The thing is, you claim somebody that is released, you've got to put them on your 53 too. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can't just claim somebody and then put them on your practice squad. And so to me, I think it goes club to club to club. We've got of course Ryan Tannehill is the definite quarterback here. Those other 2 guys are going to have a pretty interesting competition during all of this camp and preseason, to me, to see who is the legitimate viable backup, for this football team. And then the third quarterback decision that will be made depending on what comes out with the rest of the roster when we're at the end of it. The other thing that's benefiting players now, Ramon, is that there's just one cut now. Yeah. There's only one cut, so you get a lot of time in camp, in the preseason. Even though you've cut down the preseason games, they've added the practices. Mike Vrabel's very smart adding the practices with Minnesota and New England for more evaluation time. So there'll be plenty of time for that, and I think all of those variables that I just talked about will come into play.
Coach Dave McGinnis makes us smarter every Thursday here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Great stuff as always, Coach Mack. We appreciate it.
Guys, always appreciate being on with you. You guys stay cool back there, and I'll see if it's not going to be 150 here.
Yeah, stay cool out there,
Coach. Stay safe.
Hey, grab a straw and put it in your sock. You'll be just fine.
There you go.
Good.
Salty.
Hey, thanks, Will.
Yeah, you're welcome.
See you guys.
Absolutely. There's Coach Dave McGinnis with us this morning on the show. Those remedies that Coach Mack has had for years, going back to Texas high school football. We talk about that at training camp whenever we're just standing out there in the blazing heat in August.
So fun.
Some of my favorite stories of his.
A straw in your sock.
That was insane. The water thing he was talking about.
Straw in your sock.
Coming up next, 8 o'clock when we talk with John Fanta of Fox Sports about the NBA draft headlines. Interesting event coming up tonight. But when we come back, the latest player in the NFL that is waiting for an extension from his rookie deal And that extension's probably coming later rather than sooner. Why there's cause for concern for one NFC team. Coming up next on our Mo and Kayla and Will. Thursday morning at RKW continues, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone. Great conversation with Coach Dave McGinnis on tight end U and other position-specific summits in the NFL. I thought he had good insight on that being a big deal for coaches as well.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably more of a thing than we've thought when it comes to peer-to-peer mentoring in the NFL. I think tight ends now and George Kittle and Travis Kelce are just such off-the-field personalities that they've done a better job publicizing theirs.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good part of it. You got real ambassadors, man.
100%.
It matters. Union hat real quick and I take it off. That's why one thing when it comes to us getting what we want as players, lifetime medical, guaranteed pay, and the list of things that we ask for, not the little small stuff. It comes down to those big voice guys like them handling the business of the NFL instead of having a guy like myself. And I say that respectfully to myself because I have the respect factor. But those big voices, tight end U has turned into an item.
Yeah. Well,
Imagine
yeah.
when ESPN or whoever else is going to pick this up, Kayla.
Well, the NFL network, the NFL is there. Excuse me. They've got representatives there getting content and putting it out on Twitter from the NFL. Like, it's a thing.
Yep.
So you've got everybody there that's a big name for the most part. The next step will be when will be there an ESPN reporter sitting there, you know, broadcasting live from tight end U. Maybe next year. I also took from Coach Mack that it doesn't seem like, Will, from what we were talking about earlier, that the competitive advantage is even a thing.
Yeah,
like he
right.
seemed like he was like, nah, it's all good.
Yep.
But I still think it's an interesting question to maybe ask one of those guys. Do you at all ever did you ever all think of that?
Sure.
So
if I know D lineman, they'll probably ask me, hey, what are you telling them about me?
sure.
I would. I definitely would.
Jeff Simmons.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, on Pro Football Talk this morning, Mike Florio says there is plenty of noise that the Minnesota Vikings will wait to extend Justin Jefferson.
Oh.
Waiting?
A bold strategy, Cotton.
Okay.
Writing that they could regret it for a couple of reasons, saying, of course, the price is only going to go up for the player who I think right now is the best wide receiver in the National Football League.
Yeah.
Did they not learn from A.J. Brown and Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill? I mean, when you're Minnesota and your quarterback is the walking advertisement for an Applebee's, respectfully, you don't have a Patrick Mahomes to lean back on to put your foot down when it comes to value at the wide receiver position. They're just going to have to overpay.
Yeah.
They should probably do it now.
I wonder, too, though, if there's any incentive on Justin Jefferson's side to sign an extension. He's got 2 years left on his deal, and the price is just going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
Every year when more wide receivers get paid, the price is going to go up. Yeah. So if I'm him and Minnesota's like, hey, let's sign a deal, man. I'd love to get your number down. I'm saying hell no. Like, talk to me when it's my option year, and then maybe I'll sign.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel you on that one, but it's such a hard sport, and right now they're about to go through a quarterback turnover at some point.
Yeah.
And you worry about how they try to use his stats against him. It's the only point of it all, too. And I'll say this, 25 million this year is just as good as 25 million next year, too. Mm-hmm. And the quicker he gets to this extension, the better it is for him to re-up. It's how I've always kind of looked at stuff. But I'm with you, Bert. You hold off, man. Look, ain't no telling what you can get.
It's kind of a weird position for Justin Jefferson, too, because you had the Minnesota Vikings, who last year were clearly competitive, but I think there was still a lot of people doubting them, and then they, in the end, kind of proved they didn't go too far, even though they were really good during the regular season. And now you have this, like Ramon was saying, this kind of possible, not rebuild, but they're definitely letting people go. Like Dalvin Cook's no longer there. We've heard that it might be Kirk Cousins last year. So who the heck is going to throw to Justin Jefferson? That's a good question. It will be interesting to see what happens with this, just for the fact that this is a prime part of his career, and he's kind of in a weird situation up in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, nobody really talks a whole lot about him anyway, other than him. You've lost your premier guys.
Dalvin.
They're the Midwest Titans.
Yeah, you're right.
Will.
They are.
Mm-hmm.
We've had this conversation.
Brody, have we?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, they've got a former San Francisco assistant general manager in Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Kirk Cousins and Ryan Tannehill are similar styles of quarterbacks. Ryan more mobile than Kirk at this point in his career, but Kirk is similar value and similar skill level.
Yeah.
And they were just paying a running back a lot of money, and they let him go.
Very true.
I think the Vikings are a year ahead of where the Titans are.
Oh, Lord. Man.
And you could also make the argument maybe they're a year behind because last season they were the team that was good in the regular season because they were abnormally good in winning one-score games, like the 2021 Tennessee Titans, who were the 1 seed because they won every one-score game they were playing.
So true, dog.
Coming up next, we shift the conversation to the basketball world. There's a lot of Nashville representation in the NBA draft. Belmont's Ben Shepherd, one of the big risers in draft boards everywhere. Of course, Nashville's Brandon Miller of the University of Alabama. How does his game translate? We'll get all of that discussion and more from John Fanta of Fox Sports, who joins us coming up. He was in Chicago for the NBA Draft Combine, does a great job covering the Big East for Fox. His impression of this year's class and his scouting report on the Nashvillians who could have their name called tonight. That's coming up next at halftime of the show here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, 104.5 The Zone.
Just about 8 o'clock. What's going on? From the 104.5 The Zone Studios, I'm Robert Walsh. Big day in the NBA today. The NBA draft is tonight starting at 6:30. Actually, John Fanta's about to be on with Ramon Kayla Will to talk about that. But some moves are already being made as three-time All-Star forward Chris Middleton has declined his $40 million player option with the Milwaukee Bucks to become a free agent. Woj reports a return to the Bucks on a new deal remains a possibility. And the big trade from yesterday, the three teams involved, Boston, Washington, and Memphis. Boston receives Kristaps Porzingis, Memphis's first-round pick this year, which is number 25, and the Golden State Warriors' 2024 first-round pick. Washington receives Tyus Jones, forward Danilo Gallinari, and Mike Muscala, and Memphis receives Marcus Smart. Speaking of Memphis, NCAA suspends Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway for the first 3 games of the 23 season for recruiting violations per John Rothstein. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second half of the show on a Thursday morning, off and running here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, alongside our 11-year NFL veteran, Vol for Life, Ramon Foster. Our broadcast veteran, Kayla Anderson. Our producer, Robert Walsh. I'm Will Bowling. As we go to the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline and check in with John Fanta from Fox Sports, who joins us talking NBA draft, where Nashville will be very well represented tonight. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, guys. It's great to be with you. Happy draft day, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you taking the time on what is, I know, a very busy day. I just wanted to start with your overall takeaways of this class. I know you were in Chicago for the NBA Draft Combine. What makes this specific class unique heading into draft night tonight?
Well, you have to start at the top. We have the best overall prospect since LeBron James in 2003, and I'm sure people might be thinking, okay, I've heard the name enough. I want to see him play a game now. Well, it's going to take a little bit of time for that to happen. But Victor Wembanyama sets this draft on fire tonight at 8 o'clock. When he walks that stage, I think it's a potentially historic moment in the NBA. I think it's those types of pictures that we all often look back with LeBron James when he wore that white suit when he got drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's that kind of night for the San Antonio Spurs. And I'm going to tell you why right now. I think that these two stories are instrumental of what Victor Wembanyama means to this draft. Number one, how great is this for the San Antonio Spurs? How much does it mean for the San Antonio Spurs? Wembanyama, being at 7'3" with an 8-foot wingspan, has caused the organization to quite literally ditch their current team plane and buy a new team plane that fits for Wembanyama's size.
Oh my gosh!
Yes. I'm telling you, when we talk about franchise changer, he is literally a franchise changer in the sense that they have to change some of the things that they do. The other one is, let's face it, Greg Popovich has definitely given thought to, okay, well, when could be the end? And in league circles, the talk was, well, yeah, he probably doesn't have a whole lot longer to go. He's gone a long way in his career. This just extended Pop's shelf life. Why? Because think about the image of Greg Popovich, who's already got rings on rings. Think about him going out as an NBA champion. This now opens the door for him in 3-4 years to potentially go out a champion. That's how much Wembanyama means at the top of this draft.
Fascinating stuff. The plane thing, my
Yeah.
goodness, that's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Crazy.
John, talking about here locally in Nashville, Ben Shepherd from Belmont, here right down the road from us, the big college prospect coming out of the Music City here this year. What has the conversation been like around him and through his big performances at the NBA Draft Combine?
Ben Shepherd's feel for the game and size are what intrigues teams on the board tonight. Why? Because you're talking about a guy at 6'6" who averaged close to 19 points per game, showed a capability to understand when to distribute the basketball, averaging around 3 assists. He's a solid rebounder as well, but it's that three-point shot, guys. In a shot-making league, in the NBA, which is all predicated on what you can do as a shot maker. In a world where a lot of prospects do have question marks surrounding their shot making, Ben Shepherd has all the answers in that column. He is an elite three-point shooter. His shot technique is really strong, and he's used that to, when a defense is drawn into him from beyond the arc, he understands how to get rid of the basketball to pass on a good shot for potentially an even better shot for his team. And his level of feel, his basketball IQ, those things translate on the defensive end. He guards. He disrupts passing lanes. I think that when you look at Ben Shepherd and you look at the 3-and-D mold in the NBA, he fits that to a T. You don't just shoot 42% from three this past year in college and not be able to step into the NBA and offer something. It's a league where the complementary players are judged on whether or not they can enter a game and be dangerous from three-point land. Because when you're on a team with a superstar or a star, you're in a position where you are going to get some open looks. Can you knock those looks down? Where Ben Shepherd's draft range is in the 20s. That's okay. You know what that means? It means he's going to a winning franchise, a winning franchise that will value complementary shot makers. Ben Shepherd has that, and he's not going to be a liability defensively. He will be ready for that. He understands what it takes to guard. I love this kid. I think he's a first-round pick.
Wow.
John Fanta, Fox Sports, our guest here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
Yeah, John, and another guy coming straight out here in, Nashville was a Cane Ridge guy, then went to Alabama. Brandon Miller predicted to go at number 2 possibly. I love it. He told Michael Jordan a little bit of his own. Michael said, hey, you're just a shooter. And he came back and said, no. First of all, talk about that. And what do you see in terms of his game translating to the next level?
Yeah, and he is not just a shooter, and I love the question because you're talking about a guy who rebounds the basketball really well. Yeah. And when you average over 8 rebounds per game in the SEC in your freshman year, that's impressive. It's not easy to do that. And he's not just a shooter. He isn't. He can make plays. I think he's got to work on some certain things with his footwork. Yeah. And with some of the intricacies and building up his body strength, but who doesn't? Who doesn't in the NBA draft? These are kids that we're talking about that have to do certain things. I think he's a really good defender, and I think that's where people are missing on what he could be. He's very switchable onto guards. He can go from guard to a wing and can be fine defensively. On the offensive end, he is a multi-level scorer. And look. There's nothing wrong with being labeled as a guy who can knock down threes because he's capable of that. And honestly, at the top of this draft, there are several guys that the shot is a real question, whether or not shots can fall. I mean, it's a legitimate question with Scoot Henderson of whether or not he can be a shot maker. Brandon Miller is that, but he is much more. And here's the thing, guys, with Brandon Miller. Mm-hmm. At 6'9", 200 pounds, I think he'll build his body up with a team. He'll build his body up with a training program this summer even more. But the positional size fits today's NBA in every way.
Sure.
NBA teams are looking for the 6'8", the 6'9" guy who can come in, be a multi-dimensional scorer, be switchable defensively, and potentially be their alpha. Brandon Miller fits all of that, and that's exactly why he could go number 2 in the Hornets and play alongside LaMelo Ball and totally change the Charlotte franchise. And if he falls to 3 in the Trailblazers, He could play alongside Damian Lillard, theoretically, learn from a great superstar, and potentially be their next superstar in waiting. So I think it's a no-brainer. I think Brandon Miller is a great prospect. I've heard some negative things surrounding him in the recent weeks. Obviously, we know of the off-the-court issues, the unfortunate things that happened there. But on the court, there should not be as much negativity as there's been.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated, John, by the twins, Amon and Ulcer Thompson. Man, what are those two guys bringing to the game, and how do you find a unique set of twins that go top 5 potentially in the NBA draft like this?
Amazing, and another reason why this draft is fascinating. Here you've got Wembanyama at 1, and you've got the debate at number 2, and then you have twins. And maybe it's because, and it probably is, that they didn't take the traditional college pathway, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get as many eyeballs going overtime elite. But I got to tell you guys, I just love the storylines at the top of this draft. I mean, here tonight, you just said it, you're going to have one twin get taken, and then he's going to turn into the biggest cheerleader for his brother. Yeah. That's an American image right there. I mean, that's a really interesting image, a picture to watch play out tonight, watching that family react. Think about those parents tonight, how they're going to feel to have their twins drafted in the NBA in the top 6, 7, or 8, like at worst 8. Like, that's crazy. Here's what they present. They're two guys that are around 6'7", very explosive. They both have the same athletic traits of great first step, the burst and the length are really strong. When you've got length at 6'7", you know what you can do? You can guard multiple positions. They both can do that. They're both very strong defensively. They're not going to need to step into an NBA facility and need a whole lot of work on the defensive end. Mm-hmm. Amen Thompson is viewed as the better prospect than Asar Thompson because Amen has the ball handling skills. He can create off the dribble. He can make others around him, give them plays to be able to hit shots, to be in advantageous situations to score the basketball. Amen can be a creator. So he's a ball handler. He's a guy, Amen, that made 75% of his shots at the rim this past season with overtime elite. The key question mark for both of them is shooting. Asar Thompson, also really good defensively. I think he's shown an ability to be a shot maker, and he is an even better defensive player than his brother Amen. And an unlimited motor. Anytime people talk about Asar, they talk about his just limitless motor in the way that he works. So that's where he might have a slight edge on his brother. But for both of them, what it comes down to is, okay, you faced overtime elite competition. So there's a natural question. How much do we make of that competition? Mm-hmm. How do we judge the sample size of that competition versus somebody like a Brandon Miller or a Cam Whitmore or a Jarris Walker or a Cason Wallace at Kentucky, Grady Dick at Kansas, who went through the grind, the traditional grind we've become used to watching of these college players that had to go through, 40-some games and had to go through the grind of March and the intensity that March Madness brings. How much do you value those sample sizes? Does it impact your thinking at all? Well, at least for talent evaluators and teams, here's what I've learned, guys. Whether you're Wembanyama or the Thompson twins or Scoot Henderson, if you've got talent, if you've got that moxie, that top level of the draft talent, they will find you no matter who you play for.
And that's the question I got to ask you real quick, too. I got to ask about our Tennessee Volunteer, Julian Phillips. I think if he'd have come out as a high schooler, potentially could have been a first-round pick. He goes to college, and I think he's an early second-round, maybe late first-round guy. Does the gap between high school and the NBA to college kind of hurt some guys, or is it, as you just said, if you're good, you're good?
I think it's the latter. I do think that certain pathways impact, one, your circle, two, who you're getting coached by, right? And three, it definitely can create less of a sample size that then puts you in a difficult spot potentially, whereas if you played at a college, you might have gotten noticed more. Although I will say this, okay? I will say this. you could have gone to a college, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could have played a style. Like, let's be honest here. Rick Barnes is a great coach, all right? Tennessee's a great program. Tennessee is not known for their offense. They're known for the way they guard you. They're known for the way that they defend. They're known for just winning those first to 50, first to 55 type of games. So sometimes they've had some players who we haven't seen the full arsenal offensively because when they were in a college system, they were asked to play a certain way. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Julian Phillips' size and athleticism is something that really stands out. He's a guy that had a 42-inch vertical at the draft combine, and the defense is excellent. I mean, when you combine his positional size with the way that he defends, with the fact that he could guard anybody, that's very desirable from NBA teams. But NBA teams are asking themselves, how much do I really know about Julian Phillips' offense? He only shot 23% from three this past year. Was that because Julian may not be a great shot maker, or is 23% skewed because he played in a system where, hey, if you don't defend, man, Rick Barnes will take you and put you on the bench, as opposed to, well, you know, they gave him some more opportunities to contribute offensively, and it just didn't work out. So there is a dynamic there of sometimes a prospect ends up becoming better off in the NBA in a certain system, or you find out more about them once they crack in the NBA, and you say to yourself, where was that in college?
Yeah.
But the college game is a little bit different. Let's just face it, there's not as much shot making, and you could be playing alongside some different pieces who might be really, really good college players, but might not have the interest of being a pro in their mind.
Okay.
Great stuff with John Fanta of Fox Sports joining us this morning, talking NBA draft and some college basketball here. John, really, really awesome info, man. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, John.
Absolutely. There's John Fanta with us this morning on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, as we get a lot of good notes there on some Nashville prospects and on some local college athletes. In Tennessee's Julian Phillips, Ben Shepherd of Belmont, Brandon Miller, of course, from Cane Ridge. Cool thing Belmont is doing at Belmont Men's Basketball, MBB, you can guess Ben Shepherd's pick there. If you go to their Twitter, at Belmont MBB, and you will be entered to win a prize pack that includes an authentic jersey.
Wow.
So some cool stuff, and guess where Ben will be picked. And John Fanta clearly thinks he could be in the 20s and in the first round. So
yeah.
I'd maybe go there.
He was like, no doubt, I think he's a first rounder.
Absolutely.
Shooter.
That was some great info, man.
Mm-hmm. Really good. I enjoyed that.
615-737-1045. We'll continue the college discussion coming up next with an interesting ESPN article, guys, ranking the future power rankings of college football, where teams will rank over the next 3 seasons, and why this metric loves Tennessee. When we continue on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Hey, it's Will Bowling. If you are a business owner or facility manager, you've got a lot on your plate, and you've got a lot to keep up with. That can include assessing your equipment and systems, evaluating indoor air quality, outlining new cleaning procedures, or even reviewing options for implementing touchless plumbing and electrical fixtures. That's a long list, but Lead Company can help you with it all. We talk about this all the time, whether you've got a home to-do list this summer, or whether you're a facility manager, business owner with lots of projects and things you need done. Lead Company is there for you because they've been in the facility management and maintenance business for decades. Put their professional expertise to work for you today. Whether it's HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, Lead Company does it all. There's a reason why they've been trusted for nearly 80 years here in Middle Tennessee. Call Lead Company at 615-567-1000 or contact them online at leadcompany.com. The number again, 615-567-1000, LeeCompany.com, the website. That's Lee Company, all you need. Thursday morning continues on Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. And it was great to catch up with John Fanta of Fox Sports. If you missed any of that conversation, you can find it immediately after the show, wherever you listen to podcasts. But it's so hard to follow the NBA draft as a casual basketball fan because I think even as a diehard basketball fan, the shuffles, the shuffling of hats, and a guy gets drafted and is doing interviews and literally has been traded twice before his interview is even over, and he's wearing the hat of like the first team that drafted him. Like, I feel like you need like a survival guide to watch the NBA draft. So hopefully we gave you a little bit of one, at least for some of the local prospects.
Yeah.
It's crazy how not viewer-friendly it is. Like, after seeing how the NFL dominates the news cycle with their draft, you think the NBA would try to adapt to that and make it more of a viewer-friendly product. But they really make you go around your elbow to get to your ass to watch this stuff.
They do.
Yeah, that's why John puts things in perspective a little bit, because we had asked about the local prospects, obviously. You had asked about the cool storyline in the Twins possibly going in the first round, which is crazy.
Top 5 potentially, at least top 10.
And not even playing over here, which is another storyline. Like how many guys go that don't even play at the college level here.
I heard Savage talking about the European league. Just a lot of them just declared also, and it'll be funny to see how that shakes up a little bit too, with their names being put in the in the NBA draft. It seems to me that the NBA as a whole, and they'll probably never admit it, but they do I don't even want to call a good job or a careful job of making sure that their league is curated properly. You know what I'm saying? It's, okay, this piece doesn't work here. Let's make sure you get this trade and that trade. Like, how can a team exchange players and then there's a third team with no responsibility about the trade also be involved in the trade too?
It's like David Stern just declining, blocking trades for, Chris Paul was the big one.
Yeah.
Yep.
When he was just in charge of a franchise.
You see what I'm saying? Like, it reminds me, and now this is so new to me, of course, because I'm deep in this show now, but it almost reminds you of the way Succession plays out now that I'm in it. Like, Pop's going to make sure everything is all right. You know what I'm saying? As far as, I'm only in season 2, episode 8, by the way, but it's just
You're rolling through it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
You just started it.
My
They're
kids,
sailing.
they were in the living room yesterday. I was like, screw it, I'm watching on my phone. Also finished episode 2 of Righteous Gemstones.
Oh, yeah. We just started that.
I've never watched it.
Oh, it's so funny. The characters are unfreaking real. They are crazy.
There's a portion of it just like, this is so outlandish, it might actually be real.
I know. No, well, those types of things exist.
I know they do, yeah. But yeah, that's what the NBA reminds me of, the commissioner, like the father off of Succession. Like, we're going to make sure this is okay.
Yeah, Logan Roy.
It's
interesting, too, because the media rights deal is so embedded within the content of ESPN that the NBA just gets so much coverage on ESPN.
Yeah.
Relative to the TV ratings it actually earns. Mm-hmm. It's probably being discussed right now on whatever, 2 people are yelling at each other right now on ESPN.
What deal came out yesterday with the streaming? Did you all see that with the NBA?
No, I missed the streaming deal for the NBA. That must have got buried.
I'll look into it, but I just kind of saw a brief thing about that, so I'll go back and look at that.
The game is in a good spot, I think the NBA is. Of course, there's always issues with how they play, what it looks like, who's playing and who's not. It's just a fascinating approach to how they rule.
Yep.
Well, switching gears back to college football, ESPN Plus and Adam Rittenberg ranked the top 25 teams in college football, projecting over the next 3 seasons. And a couple of teams were in front of Tennessee that I don't understand, while still recognizing that Tennessee was in the top 10 of this thing, and that seems like a quick adjustment forward for a team that hasn't had consecutive top 10 seasons since 03 and 04. A lot of praise for the Vols and the recruiting they've been able to do. So this essentially gives the outlooks for quarterbacks, defenses, and offenses for the next 3 seasons. This is the FPR on ESPN Plus. I won't get into the weeds on how they find these things because, again, you start talking analytics on a morning radio show and all of you are just going to sleep and you need to continue driving your car. So I'm not going to do that to you. But essentially, ranking the top 25 teams for the next 3 seasons, Georgia's 1 and Alabama's still 2.
About right.
No complaints.
Yeah, you seen the recruiting classes?
And Bama, by virtue of having the top recruiting class in the history of recruiting, ends up being 2 there. Surprising to me that they have Ohio State ranked ahead of Michigan, considering kind of the shift that's happened between those 2 teams over the last 2 seasons. But the ones that really surprised me, let's start with LSU at 5. ESPN and ESPN Plus agreeing that LSU has done enough recruiting to justify being a top 5 program forecasted over the next 3 seasons.
I see nothing wrong with that. I don't. You got Brian Kelly as your coach.
Yep.
You're in one of the hottest beds of recruiting in the nation, aside from Texas, California, and Florida. Georgia's in there too. Louisiana is always a part of it. They're just different athletes. Anybody will tell you that. Heck, I have no ego about saying that either. And the fact that they get behind football, they get behind baseball, they get behind their sports in general and how they do things at LSU. I can see them being projected as a top 5 team for the next few years to come. And on top of that, too, they've won. They got ways to figure it out. Right now, I think they are standing in a position of having numerous 5 stars the same way Georgia and the same way Alabama has when this recruiting cycle is done.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of worry when Ed Orgeron kind of went through a little bit of a lesser what competition level when they won, after they won the national championship. And then people are like, okay, is he really the coach we think he is?
Yeah.
And then obviously he left. And hiring Brian Kelly probably was the best thing that they could have done. As much as we joked about it in the process with all the stuff that he did to promote himself when he got there, but he pretty much went there and did what he was supposed to do last year in that year. So to me, they're only going to bring in more recruits. They're only going to now compete towards the top.
The thing that they have going for them, Kayla, is exactly as you just said, though. They have a coach who has a whole lot of experience in being close to the show, being in the show, being around the show. And the show, I mean the national championship conversation. He's been there religiously all the time and always in the conversation at a place like Notre Dame. And the best thing about what they have right now, say, you know what? That was cute with what you did in South Bend. I love every aspect of everything that you did while you was a coach there. And y'all competed and you lost bad. But guess what? Come on home.
Yep.
Come to Louisiana, okay?
Accent and all.
Louisiana, and we're going to give you all the prospect that you need to play against those Alabamas. You remember how Georgia embarrassed you? Oh, Lord, well, you won't have that again. And the thing that he has going for him, one, his wife okayed it, okay? Yeah. That was the number one thing. She okayed it, but he's also motivated. And he also has that pressure of, if I can't get it done here, am I that good of a coach? There's nothing better than you can have from a guy that's pressing himself to be better in a position to where he can push everybody else.
Yeah, he has the tools there to be successful.
Exactly, because it's not him performing.
Right.
It's the players that he's coaching up, and that's one thing people have always kind of said about him. He coaches his butt off. He knows how to do that, and he's got a killer staff right now. I can project them being a top 5 team. I can. On the back of whatever their quarterback is. In today's game, he got to have that guy. And I'm not sure who's their quarterback right now.
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
I don't know how good Jaden's going to be this year, but I got a feeling that they're going to win and they're going to be a top 5 program. I can live in that world and still want to beat them, and will beat them.
Well, with ESPN's number 1 overall recruit in the class of 2023, Malachi Nelson, USC is ranked 6th on this list with a future defense ranking that is not ranked in the top 25, but a future quarterback and future offense ranking that is number 1.
Sure, because it's Lincoln Riley there.
Lincoln Riley.
Well, and ESPN2 is the only service that has Malachi Nelson ahead of Nico Iamaleava, as well as Arch Manning.
Okay.
ESPN?
Yeah, ESPN has Malachi Nelson as their number 1 recruit in
So they'll
2023.
put him there, yeah.
Over Arch.
That's what I'm saying,
too?
over Arch and Nico.
I will say this. I've been watching that recruitment, the way ESPN ranks it, they hadn't been high on Nico at all, or Arch. And I'm just trying to figure out what are they, Kayla, the entire time. I'm just like, really? I don't even know if Nico's a 5-star on ESPN.
Wow.
I'll have to double check that.
I think he's ranked in like the 20s, I want to say.
That's what I'm saying.
That's interesting. Everybody has their own stars and how they rank them, but I didn't know that.
For anybody to be able to Arch, too, kind of blows my mind.
Ranked a 4-star. 4th overall quarterback, 3rd player of the state of California.
Wow.
I told you.
I think ESPN doesn't have the resources that 247 and On3 have.
Which is through the roof. They have great resources.
Those are the top 2 recruiting services, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Is
247 and On Three.
The ones that actually do
Yeah.
that.
in no particular order.
Yeah.
Because the people at Rivals have now gone to the other two also.
Yep.
Rivals being the original that was the recruiting service when you were playing, Ramon.
It was and it was Scout also.
Yeah, scout.com.
Can I just mention something about USC, though, and putting them at 6, and I get it, like, with the offensive side of it, but now they're going to the Big Ten to play even bigger ball in terms of defense. Like, if they don't have a defense, we saw what having no defense in the Pac-12 did last year for them. I mean, they got schooled by Tulane. If they don't have a defense and now they're switching conferences and going to the Big Ten and playing in these cooler temperature, like, they better get it together, else this 6 ranking or being in any top, that's not going to last.
It won't. You
Not gonna
can't
last.
outscore everybody with the way these teams are building defenses. That's
Figure
one
out a
thing.
defense, Lincoln.
Yeah, for sure.
7th on this list is Clemson, a team that did not rank in the FPR's top 25 offenses last season. The addition of Garrett Riley is maybe the most important coordinator hire that happened in college football this past offseason. Between Garrett Riley at Clemson, getting Kevin Steele going back to Alabama to be the defensive coordinator, I think that's the other one, and then Bobby Petrino becoming the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. Those 3 guys will single-handedly decide who makes or doesn't make the college football playoff this year. It feels like more stress is being put on coordinators to change recent fortunes of these programs than I can remember. So with Cade Klubnik at quarterback, Clemson ranks 7th in this thing. The biggest issue I have is Penn State being ranked ahead of Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Penn State is 7 years removed from its last Big Ten title. They won 11 games last year and finished 7th in the final AP poll. They're also getting USC added to their conference as well. The shoe's on the other foot there. And I just think James Franklin's best days are behind him at Penn State.
I think they underachieve a little there.
I agree.
I'm just going to put that out there.
That being said, with a legitimate quarterback, now that the 10-year Sean Clifford era has ended, the guy that's been the quarterback at Penn State since the Reagan administration, it is interesting to see what they look like going into this season. With Drew Aller, the quarterback who is one of the top recruits in the 22 class. And then you have Tennessee at 9 in this list for the next 3 seasons, ahead of A&M, which I think is interesting. A&M a little bit ways back, ahead of Texas, ahead of Oklahoma. Tennessee ranked as the number 4 SEC team in the next 2 seasons of college football, or 3 seasons of college football. An offense that is ranked 6th for 2023, a defense that is not ranked, and a 2023 future quarterback ranking that is 8th, which again speaks to ESPN not valuing Nico Iamaleava the way that other recruiting services do.
It's word. I will say this: that Tennessee portion of it that's unranked, I'm gonna stand on the table and put it on tape right now. That defense will be a whole lot better.
Oh, yeah. That's what we've heard, right?
The efficiency of what they're doing and who they recruited, you're going to see, and I hope, a different outlook of what this defense is. So hopefully that's the one thing that we'll get out of this ranking right here is the defense will be above board with the numbers, with the efficiency of it and the complementary play that it gives the offense.
And what that also says to me is, at least in ESPN's rankings, is you look at the teams that are above, Oklahoma and Texas A&M. Can you do enough at Texas A&M with the play calling being taken over, right?
Right.
You still haven't gotten what you need to get out of Steve Sarkisian at Texas. I'm sorry. That's still, you're throw it up in arms and say, well, what are we really going to get out of this program? Oklahoma, I'm still questioning what they can be in terms of consistency, but then that goes to show what they believe in terms of Josh Heupel and what he's doing there and just what he's building there in terms of consistency. And they believe that maybe he can be that guy that gets them to the next level.
Yeah.
So, above these other coaches.
Yeah, 100%. The SEC is going to be very fascinating, just in general, college sports.
Yeah.
There's one team that was left out of this top 25 that I think ends up being high on this list this season, and a program we've mentioned that has as much pressure on it as anyone in college football this season. We continue with that coming up next, right here in Hour 3 on Ramon Kalen and Will.
It's Ramon Foster for My PhD Weight Loss. I'm here to tell you guys, your guy is down over 60-plus pounds. I'm trying to crack that 70 threshold right now, and I'm talking to my coach, Rachel, today and say, hey, Rach, how can we get this last few up off us? Because when we get to that point, we're really cooking with gas. I will say this, too. I tried on some new clothes yesterday. My wife was like, who are you? I was like, don't worry about it, sweetheart. Don't worry about it. With that being said, though, if you're want to drop some pounds, if you want to get on the right path of your health and just feeling good, sleeping good, just being an all-around better person, visit My PhD Weight Loss. We're on average. Most male clients lose between 3 to 5 pounds a week. Female clients lose 2 to 3 pounds a week. And, of course, as I said a second ago, you have a coach. If you have a hiccup or something that gets in your way, a bad weekend, they're with you the entire way. It is a life coach. They stick by you every bit of it. It's proven to work. Same way as me. I never thought I'd be close to losing 70 pounds within the calendar year. Visit myphdweightloss.com and be sure to tell them that Ramon sent you.
It's about Kayla and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors, right here on 104.5 The Zone as we coast into hour number 4. Coming up, Robert Walsh has joined a crusade of mine against a social media phenomenon that I am tired of, and Robert is now with me. Tired of. We'll get to that coming up at 9 o'clock. 615-737-1045. How you join us as we continue this future power rankings piece from ESPN Plus and the SEC teams that it includes and, well, it really doesn't include. The next closest team on this list to Tennessee at 9, guys. You got to go all the way to number 22. If you were to guess, in forecasting the next 3 seasons of college football, you have the top 4 that has broken away quite a bit between Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. Who to you guys is the 5th best team in the SEC moving forward?
5th best in the SEC.
Not including Oklahoma and Texas, just the teams currently in the SEC.
And so Georgia, Bama,
Tennessee, LSU, the 4 that have broken away. Not in that order, with LSU 3rd and Tennessee 4th. Who is the 5th best team in the SEC, you think?
5th best? Arkansas.
Yeah.
Really?
Arkansas.
That's where my mind kind of went with KJ Jefferson possibly being
O-line, D-line usually.
We're talking next
tight.
3 seasons.
Next 3 seasons.
Yeah.
South Carolina then.
Correct.
I wanted to say them, but I didn't.
I'm going to go with South Carolina then next 3 seasons.
Roan has a special hate for South Carolina.
There we go.
I do. I hated everything about South Carolina.
I know you do.
Kayla, I'm looking at you dead in your optics right now.
They recruited well.
They have.
And they have the next Kyle Pitts and Nicholas Harbor, who may be even better than Kyle Pitts was, because he runs a 10-3 100-meter dash, and he's over 200 pounds.
Goodness gracious.
Really, he's over 220 pounds. South Carolina's 15-11 under Shane Beamer with a top 25 finish last year after they beat Tennessee and Clemson. 3 straight AP top 10 finishes from 11 to 13. That was the last time South Carolina had sustained success in college football. They signed the number 14 class for 2023, headlined by that man, Nicholas Harbor, who I'm telling you, I've called a couple of that dude's track meets.
Yeah.
It is a specimen. A specimen. That dude is going to step in year 1 next year and be a dog.
Jeez.
For South Carolina. I need to see Carolina take that next step because they're not going to surprise anybody anymore.
Right.
No.
Right.
And it's hard to go from fringe top 25 to the top 10. It's the hardest step to take. We talked about this last week when you ask how many teams could feasibly win a championship in college football. Going from like tier 2 to tier 1 is the hardest jump to make.
It is.
Not all that hard to go from 6-6 to 8-4 for a good season. You can have one good quarterback that makes everyone good enough, like Tennessee had with Josh Dobbs.
Yeah.
And you can become an 8-4 team like that with one really good quarterback. South Carolina's got to take the next step and become a good team from front to back.
Right. But they do need consistency again from Spencer Rattler, who again showed it a little bit more last year, that he was capable of being the guy he was supposed to be, possibly coming out of high school, and didn't exactly show that at Oklahoma. So he's got to actually continue that.
Yeah. And it boils down also to the recruiting side of it, too, with how those tier 1 teams that are consistently there. What are the other tier 1s? Alabama, Georgia,
Clemson, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma,
OU,
and USC.
Those last 10-year tier 1 teams. And the reason why it's so hard is because they can oversell themselves in a way that the tier 2 teams can't. Like, you look at the recruiting list. I'm even in the 2022 class right now. The usual suspects are still there. And guess what you'll see from a tier 2 or tier 3 team? You'll see a sprinkle of Missouri, who's got a top 5 signing, Luther Burden, a wide receiver.
And you know where
Missouri.
he is now?
What, no, Missouri, I hope?
No, he's at Georgia.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
we did talk about that.
So he played 1 year for Missouri. Now he's at Georgia.
Yep.
Dog, how are you even supposed to compete with that? How?
Is Missouri still in the SEC?
Oh,
I'm just joking. Sorry. Just joking. Not really, though.
Grow up, Kayla. Grow up. But that's what happens. And I'll even say, you know what, Will? I think it's fair to say even A&M. Texas A&M is a tier 2 team. Because even if I look at this, that 2022 class, they got a bunch of guys, right? In the top 10, top 100. Guess what you see in 23? A&M, are they even in the top 10 as a recruit? They got one, David Hicks, a D tackle. But you know who is in there? Oklahoma, Clemson, Texas, Miami's in it, and Alabama got prospects 9 through 12.
Luther Burns stayed in Missouri. That's my bet.
He did
That's
stay.
a big demand on me.
Cool. Either
Wait,
way,
so he did stay?
He probably on his way at some point.
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
now.
I wouldn't
Would you
doubt
say
it,
that?
right?
That is a very valid point, Will. Like, it's so hard to go from a tier 2 team to a tier 1 because ones just stump you out as far as recruits.
Dominic Lovett, the wide receiver from
That's who
Missouri.
that was.
That's
Yep.
morning show brain and doing a game late last night, catching me. That's my
Hey,
apologies.
players mess up.
So is Florida going to be able to get back in the mix? Like,
Yes.
is Florida going to be a team again?
They
that
got
you're
a
gonna talk
quarterback
about?
now.
Florida is, and they're the number 2 recruiting class for 2024 right now. This is just the way Billy Napier was always going to do business. And he talked about this when he took the job. Billy Napier is against signing players just for the sake of signing them and wants to go through his rigorous evaluation process to make sure a player fits. I think he's got to adjust that a little bit. But that being said, I don't think Florida's problems in football are Billy Napier problems. I think they're Florida NIL and university-wide problems
Right.
for
Which
a
they
team
gotta
that
fix.
just built a football facility. The team that's not on this list that we teased going into the break is A&M. Not even ranked in the top 25 for the next 3 seasons. A&M is too talented not to at least be a top 25 team. They're just, even if Bobby Petrino and Jimbo Fisher just roll out the footballs, I still think that talent is going to win out when it's all said and done. But I'm fascinated to see what they do.
Well, they've just underachieved, though, at so many levels.
Yeah.
I mean, so many levels with the top draft that they had or draft pick signing, recruiting
College
class.
day sign- yeah,
Sorry, I'm
signing
getting
day.
my NFL but yeah, I mean, they haven't been able to develop
And
these dudes.
through all of this, there's still one guy I'm forever eyeballing and say, how long does he last? And that's Lane Kiffin in Oxford.
Yeah, we're not even talking about Lane.
They're the other team that's in this list, number 25.
Okay.
Coming up next, hour 4 of the show headlines we've not gotten to yet, including a new commitment for Tennessee on the recruiting trail. We'll get to Ben McKee coming up in 25 minutes as well as we bring him into the topic we had yesterday. How do you grade Tennessee athletics season as a whole after their final sport ended a couple days ago against LSU? That's coming up as hour 4 begins right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will.
What's going on? 901. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. Big day in the NBA today. If you missed it, in hour 3, you can check it out on the podcast for Ramon, Kayla, Will. Had John Fanta on talking about the NBA draft tonight. Really good stuff there. And moves are already being made for that. 3-time All-Star forward Chris Middleton has declined his $40 million player option with the Milwaukee Bucks to become a free agent. Woj reports a return to the Bucks on a new deal remains a possibility for Middleton. And the big 3-team trade between Boston, Washington, and Memphis last night. Boston receives Kristaps Porzingis, Memphis' first-round pick tonight, which is number 25, and a 2024 first-round pick. Washington receives guard Tyus Jones, forward Danilo Gallinari, and center Mike Muscala. Memphis receives guard Marcus Smart. Speaking of Memphis, the NCAA suspends Memphis head coach Penny Hardaway for the first 3 games of the 23 season for recruiting violations per John Rothstein. And in the College World Series, LSU forces a winner-takes-all game against Wake Forest last night after beating them 5-2. You can check that out tonight at 7 p.m. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. Now back to Ramon, Kayla, Will on 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show. Welcome back into RKW. Ramon, Kayla, and Will is powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. When trust matters, count on All Four Seasons Garage Doors in Nashville. Professional garage door installation and repair from a locally owned and family-run business. Visit allfourseasonsgarages.com/Nashville with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh making the show happen. I'm Will Bowling. 615-737-1045 is how you join us. And there is a social media trend that Robert Walsh has joined my crusade against as we mute the words Jell-O shot on Twitter.
Are y'all tired of this yet? Like,
Yes.
I know me and Will are on the bus.
Yeah.
But last night, I was offended. It takes a lot to get me offended. But when I saw them say, guess how many Jell-O shots we've sold in the last day to win a free $100 gift card to Rocco's. So then I start thinking, like, how many Jell-O shots have they sold? They've sold a bunch. I don't have the exact number.
I got the tally right here on their last update, 233,510.
At
Goodness
$5 a pop. So instantly, my first thought is, like, what are they doing with this money? So if you go to their Twitter, you find out that proceeds from this shot are going to food banks for the 8 teams. But my problem is, I shouldn't have had to look at their Twitter to know that. Like, this is something they should be sponsoring. Like, hey, this is for the food banks. Like, this is why we're charging this much. This is why we have this many people. So, my upsetness. There's probably a better word than that.
That's fine.
My upsetness with Rocco's Pizza did not end there, though. So I started looking at reviews for Rocco's Pizza. I'm like, well, maybe it's redeeming. Maybe they have great za. Maybe they give the stuff to homeless people at the end of the night, give all the food they didn't sell. But what I see are a slew of 1-star reviews on Yelp. And I want to read a couple of these
real
for
quick
you.
before you go, that's how much money they've made, not how many shots they've actually sold.
Oh.
$233,510. My bad on that before you hit the reviews. Okay?
Almost $250,000.
Almost $250,000.
So, I mean, we're talking Jell-O shots here. This is like a lemonade stand, y'all. How are you making that much money? That's more money than I've made in my whole life. Anyway, so I'm looking at their reviews, and they have a plethora of 1 stars. So here's what people are complaining about in Omaha this week. 1, they do not list their beer prices. A draft beer will cost you $11.50. That is Broadway prices.
At a restaurant?
And
Get out.
So they are not posted. So you're like, yeah, let me get a Bud Light. Let me get a Mick Ultra, whatever your flavor is. And then when you might get a couple of them because it's a draft and they're supposed to be affordable. You get your ticket and it's $55 for 5 beers. apparently this place has had issues with children coming in, and they're not equipped for this many people to be swept. So last night they had to kick a group out for buying Jell-O shots. The thing that they're promoting all over social media. But then the staff thought that they were buying the Jell-O shots for children, and they violently removed them from the restaurant. So all kind of things is going on at Rocco's. I'm just saying, let's make this a little more forefront. Less about the Jell-O shots, less about the number, less about the pub, and more about the food banks.
Yeah, maybe just give us a final number when it's over.
Sure. I don't need to update every single day.
Every 10 minutes, I'm seeing a different update, and it's just different LSU fan. Like, oh my gosh, we're buying so many Jell-O shots. You guys see this?
Also,
like, guys, we know.
You're a loser.
It's just you.
No one else cares. Y'all keep putting money into this. Like, maybe if they had levels like they do for fundraisers, okay, after we hit 10,000 shots, this is how much money is going to the food bank.
Right.
20,000 shots, this is what's going to. Like, I would just like a little more for the community and less about how many daggum shots y'all have taken. And they're not. You can't even convince me these would be good Jell-O shots. They're using Vladimir. They're using a plastic bottle of vodka, something that I probably drank in somebody's basement when I was 18. This ain't worth a darn. I need more for the community.
Well, and there's the fact, too, now that nobody likes a fan base that brags about how big they are. Like, when Kentucky fans take over Nashville for the SEC tournament, like, we would probably think it was cooler if they weren't so obsessed with the fact that there are so many of them. Like, you talk to any of them, and it's just like, in LSU baseball is the same way. It's a program with a lot of tradition. It's essentially the Kentucky basketball of SEC baseball.
Yeah.
And they're just obsessed that they're all buying Jell-O shots. It was cool for a couple days. It has run its course now. There's only 5 teams left. Like, who else is going to buy them? Are Oral Roberts fans still hanging out in Omaha?
And the fact that it's not even a competition. Like, it's just, LSU has just run away with it. So it's no longer like, oh, who's going to win? It's like, oh, who gives a rip?
So who's worse then? Is it them or is it ESPN that's posting it also, too? Because they promote it like crazy. They really do.
Posting it as much as Rocco's is just on Twitter.
And this is my thing with it. What's the win in it? Like, legitimately, what's the win in it? Is it like, hey,
to get people to Rocco?
Because this makes me think, that's the win for
charity.
them. This makes me think
but
of, like,
they're not
guys.
promoting the charity. He had to dig for the charity.
Yes, he did. You did have to dig for the charity right there. It's like guys in the club, like buying bottle service. Like, they got 5 bottles over there. Y'all gonna get some more bottles? No, I ain't getting any more bottles. Absolutely not. I'm not. I'm cool. We're actually about to leave. Okay. Matter of fact, Keish, can you put this in your purse? Thank you. So we can take this bottle up out of here. Like, it really does boil down to that. Like, this ain't a situation where we need to measure out. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's $5 a shot, y'all. $5 a shot. Who's ever paid that much? I thought Jell-O shots was like $1 a piece.
That's
They
what it was
should
in
be.
college.
That's what it should be.
Yeah, unless they're with Grey Goose and they're huge like that, and I'm not paying $5 for
And
it.
I want it to be watery then. I don't even want the Jell-O. Just pour some
True.
Mio in there.
Yeah.
Give me the whole thing.
Right?
Who's making these? Like, what kid is back there?
point.
Like, is there a summer job? Like, it's a Creighton student who we're just, let me go work at this fun pizza place that I love. I'm going to stay in Omaha during the summer, getting ready for my junior year as a business major. Oh my gosh, there are thousands of LSU people here. Oh my, how much? Is there going to be a purple Jell-O shortage in the country, like in the United States, because of LSU fans?
Yeah, kind of the way the Barbie movie did with pink.
Yeah, right. Like the Barbie movie with ceramic pink paint. Good job.
You know, every once in a while, I'll do something cool with on the show. Every once in a while, I was actually
Because that's on the top of your list to see, right?
it is. I saw it being made on Venice Beach.
I'll be
That's
seeing
right.
the
I
Barbie
saw Margot
movie.
Robbie.
Yeah.
I'll absolutely watch that movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw the stunt doubles out there. They look just like them. Back to
The
this
stunt
Jell-O shot
doubles?
thing. Yeah, they look just like
Oh,
them.
okay.
They really did.
Yeah, with the Jell-O shot thing too, it is interesting. Like, do they invest in a machine that like just pumps them out? Because now the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm realizing, do they do any other business there then? Who's making the pizza at this point?
That's so fair.
Some kid on a summer job making $10.50 an hour.
A lot of the reviews say the pizza is terrible.
trash.
It's
Really?
not good.
You can't have
They're
it
going to
both
come find
ways.
us on Twitter if
I
we're not
know.
careful.
Well, that's
I
fine.
know, right?
Okay, I'll give them a green light. One of the good things in this review said that you can smoke cigarettes inside. So that's a plus.
So now there's ashes in the Jell-O shot.
Cigs inside, cigs inside.
Hey, man, absolutely. That will not pass go, Bert. Absolutely not, man. But y'all have muted the words Jello shot from your algorithm.
I just
right
muted
now.
the channel, the whole Twitter page. I just didn't
Okay.
want to see it anymore.
I'll keep you updated. When they hit 250,000, I think we'll be good. Is that cool? No, I'm just saying.
But guess what? LSU could be eliminated tonight.
They could. I mean, yeah.
Gotta
LSU,
drown
Wake
your
Forest.
sorrows.
It's going to be a fun game.
It's really going to be fun.
I'm
Yeah.
glad the Braves game is a day game, so I'll have undivided attention on the college baseball.
I must say, though, LSU's a real good baseball team.
Yeah.
Well,
They're damn
yeah,
good.
we just
They
talked
are.
about that.
I know,
Let's not
but
give them any more credit.
Well, you know what? You know how they go, and us Vols go super hard, and it's hard to talk about it. No, it's me taking this one, facing the fan on this one.
Yeah.
LSU's a really good baseball program.
Can I also bring up something I randomly said earlier that I want to clarify because I was in the middle of tight end U? Slam Ball has struck a 2-year deal with
Crazy.
ESPN. That's what it was.
Crazy.
I had not read the headline clearly in our chat.
I actually thought they got rid of it because of health reasons and stuff. They said, no, screw that. 2023, guess what? We putting your kids back on the jungle gym.
Yeah, slam ball is very exciting.
Yeah, we're putting your
Oh, that
kids
sounds
back.
fun.
You know, they took the merry-go-round off playgrounds, too.
Dude, I love that thing.
I used to spin
You
that
would
thing
get
so fast.
hurt.
Oh, my.
You would break arms.
I used to love seeing people
Robert
fling
and
off of it.
Will, you didn't get to experience that, right?
Oh, dude.
Experience what?
The
merry-go-round.
or the
Oh,
spin.
they're still-
The
yeah.
spin. Wait, I thought that was gone a
I
long
thought they
time
got rid
ago.
of merry-go-rounds on playgrounds.
They're still on like older playgrounds. They weren't on
What?
my elementary school playgrounds.
I
don't
ain't been to a playground in a minute, but when I was still going to playgrounds,
Thank you.
there were still merry-go-rounds. But the problem with those things are they were built out of like metal.
Yes.
So like
Yeah,
when you
they
would
were.
pick the speed up, obviously the velocity and mass and all those science terms, like
Yes.
it's gonna hurt like hell if you jump into it, fall off, get flung off. Like so, I steered clear of those. I was always a chunky kid. So monkey bars, anything that would make me move faster than my turtle-shaped body was supposed to move,
Stayed away.
I stayed away from it.
I was a big fan of swinging and then jumping off the swings at the very top
Oh, yeah.
of the
Okay.
swings and then
Yes.
jumping like 15 feet and then landing on
Right.
the
Pea
rocks.
gravel?
Yeah, the pea gravel.
what they
We didn't
call
have
it.
that. We had
Okay.
Y'all
Y'all
peed in the gravel.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
I don't know what that.
We used to
whole
have pea
situation
gravel
is.
People
fights.
did do that.
What in the
though.
world is that?
And I
gravel
would,
rock fights.
I would bury my egg salad sandwich at daycare in there because I hated
Why
egg
the
salad
hell were you
sandwich.
taking
What in
egg
the
salad to
world?
daycare?
Oh, don't
No,
sleep
they
on the
made
egg salad.
they made it for us, and then I would bury it because I was like I wasn't having it.
I've
now
never
I
had
like
an
it.
egg salad.
Okay, well there you go.
Like it now. Pea gravel.
Ben McKee from Vols 247 joins us coming up next. How much of Tennessee's loss to LSU was the Vols not being good enough at the plate, or LSU just pitching better than expected, and how he grades the entire Tennessee athletics season as a whole as we continue and hit the Vols commitment on the offensive line with Ben. Coming up next right here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's Ramon, Kayla, and Will, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors here on 104.5 The Zone as we continue through our fourth and final hour. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. And joining us on the Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline, our good friend Ben McKee, who covers Tennessee for Go Vols 247 and 247 Sports. What's up, Ben? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. How are y'all?
We're good. We just went through a rant, and you can tell us if we're bad people or not, about how we're tired of hearing about all the Jell-O shots in Omaha on Twitter. Like, it was kind of cool for a couple days. I feel like it's played out at this point. Like, did you see this place firsthand while you were in Omaha?
Well, I'll say that you're a terrible person, and Kayla and Ramon are not.
Okay.
But aside from that, I did not purchase a Jell-O shot. I did walk by. Actually, I did want to go in, but I wanted to go in for the pizza and not the Jell-O shot because I'm a fat boy and I love to eat. But I walked by it. It's right across from the stadium, and it was packed every time. And,
okay.
Maybe I'm getting older than I realize, quicker than I'd like to admit, because I saw the crowd and wanted nothing to do with it.
That's fair. That's how I feel at most Broadway bars on like a Tuesday. So understandable. Ben, this game against LSU, was this more about Tennessee's approach at the plate not being good enough, or more about LSU just being the overall better team, in your opinion?
I don't know that I'd say it as a poor approach at the plate. I thought they just weren't prepared mentally, and not that they weren't ready for the moment or didn't play hard or anything along those lines. Tony Vitello said that they were too tense pregame and throughout the game, and that led to more frustration that resembled more of the team in the first half of the season than the team that battled through adversity during the second half. So I thought it was a golden opportunity squandered for Tennessee. And Nate Ackenhausen was awesome. He was terrific. He showed up when it mattered most. There were a lot of questions surrounding LSU's pitching depth, and when you kind of look at the numbers after they beat Wake Forest last night, maybe everybody in college baseball needs to stop questioning the pitching depth because it has turned its season around, much like Tennessee turned its season around. So, but still, it felt like a golden opportunity for Tennessee's offense that was in a really good place. To take advantage of a guy making his first career start at this level. And I did just compliment LSU's pitching depth, but I just watched Tennessee baseball the day before take it to Quinn Matthews, and then the next day against a similar lefty with lesser stuff, in my opinion, they just looked completely out of their element. So I think maybe the moment was a little too big for them. I think that was more so the biggest issue, which – in hindsight, was very surprising just because of how they handled everything with the Clemson Regional, with the Southern Miss situation, bouncing back and beating Stanford. I was surprised to hear Tony Vitello say post-game that they were a little tense pregame and throughout the game, and that led to more frustrations than the group had showed the second half of the year.
So, Ben, we had the conversation yesterday about Tennessee athletics as a whole this past year and asked, can you give Tennessee an A for the entire year of football through baseball, despite the fact that they didn't win a national championship? As you look back on the year that was for Tennessee athletics, and it was a good one, how would you grade everything put together?
I would grade it as an A. I don't subscribe to the championship or bust theory, and that probably lends in my grade. And I'm sure there are stricter graders out there than me, and somebody's probably scoffing at me that Tennessee didn't win a championship or anything. But when you look at football kind of coming out of nowhere, that they weren't expected to win a championship in year two under Josh Heupel, and I don't even know that double digits were expected. I think everybody realized that they had the potential to do so, but it wasn't the expectation, and they far exceeded expectations. Now, the basketball program, mainly the men's program, and the baseball program, their expectations currently are different than the football team's expectations because Josh Heupel just took over, and Rick Barnes and Tony Vitello have certainly established themselves in Knoxville. But I'm not going to say that the season in which they made a Sweet 16, which hasn't been done a ton, for the basketball program. They've only made it to one Elite Eight. So making it to the Sweet 16 and knocking off Duke in the way that it did, I'm not going to say that wasn't a successful season just because they didn't make it one round further. And also with the baseball program, they certainly had the talent to go win a national championship, but it's really hard to win titles and championships at any level, in any sport, professionally, collegiate level. It's hard to win state tournaments in high school. It's just it's a really hard accomplishment to reach. And I thought the goal was to get to Omaha and give yourself a chance to win a national championship because you did have a ton of talent, and they did just that. So I think at some point you do have to win a championship if you truly want to be an everything school. At some point, just simply being on the big stage won't be enough. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be appreciated, but at some point you do have to pay it off and win a championship to really take that next step. But mainly just because I don't subscribe to the championship or bust theory in most situations, I still give it an A because it was an incredibly successful season for all of the sports involved.
Ben, I kind of ride with you on that one as far as championship goes and growth of your team and coaches and just how you operate. One question I have, though, too, or the question I have for you is this. Some of the mistakes that were made are transgressions that happened to this team. Third base coach not sending, I think, who was it, Cal Stark.
Yep.
And was it the reaction of what happened the day before with Maui Huna or what on those type of decisions?
Yeah, I do think it was – I think that played a role for sure. I actually liked the decision not to send Cal Stark.
Okay.
Because Josh Pearson out there in left field got the ball to Jordan Thompson, and Jordan Thompson, the shortstop for LSU, was the relay man, and he has an absolute cannon. And he was – catching the relay throw as Cal Stark was getting to third base. And I thought the only way that Cal Stark scores is if Jordan Thompson, who doesn't typically make bad throws, makes a bad throw. I thought Cal Stark would have been out by a couple of steps at the plate. So I actually did not mind that decision by Josh Elander. But it's also hard not to say that decision wasn't in part because of what happened the day before when Maui Ahuna was thrown out by a mile at home plate against Stanford in the first inning. I do think that maybe there was a little more cautiousness there. But I liked it. I thought Cal Stark was at third base as Jordan Thompson was catching the relay throw and was going to get thrown out. I thought the bigger issue was the situational hitting and just the amount of people left on base. I believe it was 10 guys left on base for the game. 0 for 4 or so with runners in scoring position and like 1 for 9 or something along those lines with runners on base. I thought that was the biggest issue was the situational hitting. LSU only had 6 hits, but LSU also gave them a couple of more base runners by pitches. So I just didn't think the offense had a great night overall, and you don't really want to run yourself out of an inning there, in my opinion.
And the other portion of it for me, I think, was the biggest separator. And we're not going to speak too much about it, I guess, or maybe we just evaluate it. But our starters, Dolander and let's go Drew also, Beam. I thought they were good, not great in those moments that we necessarily needed them. Do you think with a guy like Dolander, the pressure of performing, or I know it's finicky being on that mound, did you expect a little bit more out of them to start those games?
Not Drew Beam. I thought Drew Beam pitched well, given who he was facing. 5-6 innings. I think it was 5.2 innings he ended up going and only gave up 1 earned run.
Okay.
I mean, you sign up for that all day long against that LSU lineup. And I really can't believe that the offense squandered that opportunity because I was kind of thinking going into that game, if Tennessee's pitching staff can just hold LSU to 4 or 5 runs, which it did, then with the way Tennessee's offense is swinging the bats, then I thought it was going to be good enough to win that game. So I disagree with Drew Beam, but I do agree with Chase Dolander. Chase Dolander certainly struggled, and it was a very inconsistent season in totality for Chase Dolander, which I really hate for him because I know how much work he puts in He's a great young man. He wants it as much as anybody, and it just did not click for him for whatever reason this year. I don't know if it was because he was the guy talked most about on this team coming into the season, and maybe the pressure got to him a little bit. To me, and this is just my opinion, watching him from the press box, it did seem like maybe he tensed up while on the mound and maybe felt like he needed to be too perfect, especially at the beginning of the season when the offense wasn't playing well, but also in some big games. When the games in which he started off a little bit rough and then kind of settled in, it was almost as if he settled in once Tennessee was able to swing back. Like I think of the Southern Miss game, he allows Southern Miss to jump out to a 4-0 lead after the 3-run homer, and then Tennessee comes back immediately and answers with some runs, and that seemed to settle him down. So to me, it seemed like he was almost too tense within those moments, and I'm sure there's also fundamentals and mechanics that probably need to be adjusted as he enters pro ball, but that start was definitely disappointing for him and for Tennessee as well. And I do think, just my personal opinion looking on, I do think maybe the moment got to him a little bit in the sense of him feeling like he needs to be perfect on such a big stage in an elimination game.
With the Vols not making it to Omaha last year and then making it this year, winning a game, which they did not do in the first year with Tony Vitello going 0-2, what is the next steps in terms of Tony Vitello and this program that Vols fans are going to continue to hope that this program is going to get that natty eventually?
Well, I think that is the next step, winning a national championship. I guess technically speaking, it would be getting to the championship series since they won one finally. First one under Tony Vitello. Also the first ever for Tony Vitello. When he went with Arkansas in 2015, I believe, Arkansas went 0-2. So that was Tony Vitello's first ever win as a participant at the College World Series. And then obviously Tennessee baseball was very down for a long period of time, and it was Tennessee's first World Series win in 22 years. And that is something absolutely to be proud of. And that's not giving out a participation trophy or a gold sticker or a medal. That is a very nice building block, in my opinion. I mean, how long did it take Tim Corbin to finally get over the hump?
Yep.
Kevin O'Sullivan, I believe it also took quite some time. Arkansas is still trying to get over the hump and win a national championship. It's just really, really hard to do. Mike Bianco at Ole Miss, it took him a very, very long time to get over the hump and win a national championship. So I think Tennessee is on the doorsteps of a national championship, and they've done just about everything they can do to put themselves in position to do so. And I think it's just kind of continuing to repeat the formula, because I do believe they have a winning formula. And maybe what it's going to take to get over the hump is building off of these experiences and learning from these experiences. And the next time that they go back, which it should be soon. I mean, they're going to have enough talent every single time to go to Omaha every single year. So just building off of those experiences, I think. But the expectation and next step for Tennessee is absolutely winning a national championship. And honestly, I would be surprised when we reflect on Tony Vitello's tenure at Tennessee, whether that's a 10-year tenure or a 30-year tenure. I do think he's a guy that should be a lifer at Tennessee, so maybe it'll be a long time before we have to reflect. But I would be very surprised if he does not win a national championship. And with the way that they're recruiting, they are recruiting at a very high level with anybody in the country. And the way somebody over in that program worded it to me about a month ago is that the amount of talent that they've got coming in, they wouldn't be surprised at all if they win one here in these next 4 to 5 years.
And do they learn something maybe from this year, bringing in some of those transfers and having to build that chemistry and it taking a while this year? Do you take anything from that? Can Tony take anything from that with some of the new guys they possibly get in, just in terms of that, building that chemistry quicker, if there's any way of even doing that?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think a $1 million question that every coach in every sport is trying to figure out right now with the transfer portal. I remember hearing Dave Van Horn Arkansas's coach talk at the SEC tournament and say that he and his coaching staff were scared to death during fall ball and kind of entering the academic year as to whether all of the transfers they brought in were going to click with one another.
Mm-hmm.
You just have no way of knowing if the group of guys that you bring in are going to like each other or if they're not going to like each other. You have no idea, and that's kind of what Dave Van Horn was saying, and he said that they got lucky and that their group of transfers clicked right away, and they were off and running, and that wasn't the case for Tennessee. And not that they hated each other or anything along those lines. It's just maybe – I mean, it's no difference than when you all started y'all show. I mean, y'all
Sure.
are much more comfortable with one another now than y'all were at the beginning. Not that y'all disliked each other. Maybe you did. You do have to put up with Will Bowling on a day-to-day basis, but –
You said it. You said it.
You know what that's
perfectly.
like, Ben.
Yes, I do. That's why I said it. No, I'm kidding. I'm all jokes, Will. But I think that's the million-dollar question that everybody's trying to figure out, and they're trying to evaluate that in the transfer report.
Yeah.
I think if you can learn anything, it's Tony Vitello himself maybe learning what buttons to push sooner. Because he got the job done. He got them to click at some point, but it certainly took a lot longer than everybody involved wanted it to. So maybe that's the lesson learned, is how to press those buttons a little earlier in the season.
Yeah, Ben, luckily these guys don't have to dress up in costume to hang out with me like you and I did when we had to work together back in 2018. On the way out, Boot Carter commits over the weekend. Longtime Tennessee target for Josh Heupel commits over Michigan. Max Anderson, a talented interior or offensive lineman, yesterday commits. You got a linebacker that commits as well earlier this week. What's the headline for you for the last 4 days for Josh Heupel in recruiting, and where do you think Boot Carter ends up sticking on this roster?
My headline is that Josh Heupel continues to surpass expectations on the recruiting trail. And not that I necessarily ever thought that he wasn't going to be able to get the job done. You're at the University of Tennessee. It's going to recruit itself to a certain extent. Even Jeremy Pruitt and Butch Jones, even Derek Dooley had a little bit of success recruiting. So it's going to recruit itself to a certain extent. But I think Josh Heupel's been able to take the resources and really run with it. And folks at UCF wanted to knock Josh Heupel and his ability to recruit coming out of UCF and when he got to Tennessee, which that dynamic was always weird. Josh Heupel doesn't like doing media. He knows that he needs to do it, but that doesn't mean that he has to like to do it in the process. And I think maybe some TV stations down there did not appreciate the lack of access or the lack of jumping for joy from Josh Heupel to do media, and maybe that led to their narrative that they were kind of sharing when Josh Heupel got the job, and them thinking that UCF would be in a better place, in part because of their opinion that there was a lack of recruiting, and we just have not seen that from Josh Heupel, and he's built on that each and every year. Year one was kind of so-so, but I thought that was more a result of the NCAA tournament, or not tournament, but NCAA investigation cloud hanging over them. And technically it's not wrapped up, but in the 2 years since when those storms have settled, I mean, he's put back-to-back recruiting classes that are really strong together. And I think this one's only going to continue to grow. And as he continues to establish his brand at Tennessee, I think Tennessee will be a year in, year out, top 5, top 10 recruiting class, which puts you in a position to absolutely compete for championships. And I know Tennessee fans are super thrilled about that. But with Boot Carter, I think he's a guy more Tennessee sees on the defensive side of the ball right now. He's certainly a dynamic football player, whether he's on offense or defense, and I'm sure he'd see the checkerboards plenty if he played offense at Tennessee. But it seems like they want to play him in the secondary, at least to start out.
Ben McKee bringing it as always here on Ramon, Kayla, and Will at Ben McKee 14, where you can find him covering the Vols for Go Vols 247. Despite calling me a bad person, Ben, we appreciate the time. Thank you.
It's all good, Will. If I didn't like you, I wouldn't pick on you.
That's fair.
You know this. This is why I pick on Rob Harvey all the time. So I appreciate you and hope y'all have a great week.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate the call. There's Ben McKee with us this morning on the show, and there's the phone line. We'll wrap things up coming up next. And, again, I've told the story that Ben and I working for the Tennessee Smokies together would dress up as different animals all the time. Because when you work minor league baseball, you just wear costumes.
Creativity.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, headlines we missed coming up next. Ramon, Kalen, Will, 104.5 The Zone. One final segment this morning of Ramon, Kayla, and Will. It's powered by All Four Seasons Garage Doors. Appreciate Coach Dave McGinnis, Ben McKee for joining us this morning. Congratulations in order, by the way, to 3HL. They're not leaving.
No.
Multi-year extension for all parties involved. Don Davenport, Ron Slay, Brent Doherty. Congratulations to the entire crew who are sticking around long-term here on the station. Great friends, great teammates, and a great show that I know you guys enjoy as much as we do from 3 to 6 every day. So congrats to them and good stuff.
Congratulations to the gang, man.
We go back to the phones. Greg in Mississippi has been waiting very patiently to talk with us again. Hello, Greg. How are you?
Well, I hope you get extended too. You know, even though I'm not gonna throw salt in your coffee too much this morning, Will. I'll just say I would have been disappointed at how Vitello coached. I just thought he coached a little tight. You got to be aggressive. That's why people around the country didn't like him, because he was brash. I just thought he just was real timid how he approached the deal. He's worried about moving stools. You got to try to generate some runs. And then that eighth inning, you hit two batters in a row. You bring the guy in, he throws a wild pitch, so you get LSU an easy run. Then I don't understand, why would you pitch to Dylan Cruz there? He just crushed that ball.
So are you supposed to run away from your fears? So, Greg, do you run away from your fears in those situations right there? You intentionally walk a guy? Or, that's competition right there, right? If you think your guy's as good as the other one.
Mr. Foster, I would rather – Dylan Cruz is the best player in the country. Don't throw a pitch down the middle to him. He's going to crush it, and then you had no shot.
Well, maybe he didn't plan on throwing it down the middle. You know how pitching in baseball goes, right? Like, it's one thing to say I'm going to hit my spot. It's another thing to say, hey, my body's just a little bit different right now. You know that. You're a baseball aficionado.
I know. I just in that situation, I'd rather face Tommy White than Dylan Cruz. We just disagree there, Mr. But he burned them, and then they had no shot. 3-0, you still have a shot because you still have some batchers there. Yeah. You hit a grand slam, you win the game. But I was just curious. I was surprised the article Will mentioned. I'm surprised Auburn wasn't mentioned a little bit higher because of Freeze and how Auburn does things. They don't care at Auburn in the recruiting. And if there's one guy that can probably survive in the state with Saban, it's Hugh Freeze. He's a proven winner. And just Mr. Foster, I have to give you credit. You said they beat Southern Miss, so don't think I didn't forget you. I have to give you a little love there. I was just a little surprised with the SEC, how they did the schedules for 24. And I think they gave LSU a little bit of a break because LSU is playing, USC and UCLA in addition to those teams. I think their schedule's a little bit easier in the 8 games. I'd say the Vols is probably fair. I'd say probably Texas A&M and Texas got some breaks. But enjoyed the soccer game last night, Will. Just didn't enjoy that effort for the Nashville SC. I thought they'd win. They cost me some dollars at the window, so I'm going to have to fade them this weekend. But you guys have a good show. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
I respectfully disagree with Greg on the Auburn stuff, too. He's got a lot to prove there, and that program has been nowhere where it needs to be, and he needs to prove that he can get them back there. So, no, they don't deserve to be in anywhere top 10.
They don't yet because it's based off of the way they formed this ranking was based off of recruiting rankings of the past few classes. And so, there's a chance that this time next year we're talking about Auburn being in that future power rankings conversation. But they've got 2 or 3 recruiting cycles they have to stack together before they can be considered with South Carolina, Ole Miss, and A&M in kind of the middle of the SEC.
And I like Auburn. Let's just put that on the record. So.
Yeah, we have a resident Auburn alum here, Babsy.
Well, my husband's an Auburn.
Yeah, your husband's
4th generation.
Absolutely. Yeah. What up, Trav? Mm-hmm. I like when Greg do calling. I will say that, too. I enjoy Greg's back and forth because his approach is really good to what the game and what other fan bases view. So I don't want Greg to think me snapping back at him. I just looked at, when you say run, I just looked at that as running away from competition.
That was a good back and forth.
Yeah, like no, go right into the teeth of it.
And he took your point.
Yeah, he did, and I took his too. So I don't want Greg to think that was the case. I love the back and forth, especially when we get into topics of you versus me.
Yeah. Believe you, Ramon Foster.
That's right. You, just like Cousin Andrew. Yeah, you're 100% facts on that one.
Coming up on tomorrow's show, our weekly conversation with Brent Hubbs. Big Titans discussion tomorrow on past and present AFC South stars you would want to become Tennessee Titans this year. if you can pick them on a
Ooh,
1-year contract.
Spicy.
You'll certainly want to join in on that tomorrow. Back at it again at 6 a.m. It'll be Friday. I promise you, we only know how to do one thing, and that's act like it. And Ramon Foster is going to act like he's got words of wisdom for you right now, because he does.
I can act like it. Okay, here we go. Just remember at all times, man, your Instagram Live, your Twitter fingers, your mic is always hot.